Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support the show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today, and welcome to Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast. This is episode 23.
And it's me, Carrick, with ACG.
Here we go. Aftermath of E3, we're doing some cleanup work. For those who missed it, we had our E3 special already go live this week. Now we're recording our normal episode of Defining Duke, and next week we're doing like our crossover E3 show. There's so much stuff happening revolving around E3. I'm very tired. I'm running on 4 hours of sleep as we speak right now. So
what'd you do?
I am, well, it's more so I went to bed late, which whatever. I was like, I'm going to sleep in. My dad's like, hey, Matt, DirecTV guy's probably coming over. Between 8 to 12 is what I was told.
Oh, that sucks. And you never know.
And now I'm thinking, you know what? What are the chances this guy wants to fix a TV at 8? You might want to bump us back, right? That's my foolish assumption. My dad comes in the room. It's 8. He's like, yep, Matt, get up. And at that point, I'm like, all right, I'm just going to go to my office and work. I'm just going to get my shit out of the way now. So it worked out. No complaints. But it was definitely unfortunate during E3 where I've been working a lot. How are you doing through this very busy time?
Good. I haven't really even noticed much of it because it's...
Yeah, I was going to say, you don't do news. That was kind of a dumb question.
Yeah, I don't do news, and it's digital now, which makes it even easier. Like, I got accepted. I don't know if you did even worried about doing a press thing, but I did, and only now, after E3, got the alert that I was accepted for E3 press, and I was like, what would I have got that was beyond what we got anyway? You know, which is sort of nice.
No one got anything. It was,
it was sort of nice.
It was really nice. Yeah,
just
absolutely.
Do it from home, baby.
It seemed like there was going to be a split of some kind when you were reading the prerequisites of influencers and content creators versus press, where like press was the only people getting some type of access, but it didn't look like anyone got access. I was under the impression there were going to be like digital demos. That's why I signed up. And I even saw journalists just posting online saying we didn't do anything. We didn't even go back to the site. So it was just, for those who want to know a little inside baseball, just whatever happened with E3 this year was really weird. It was almost performative, I would say. Like it was sign up for the thing because it's a thing.
No, I would say
nothing happened.
It's a good term. It was performative because of all the journalists I know, no one got anything, and I didn't even get an update. Like, they didn't even say, I got one thing for Ubisoft, I think, where they said Ubisoft's doing something. That was it. I didn't even get, like, schedules or
anything. It was like a mailing list sign up, technically.
Yeah, it was so weird. And, you know, my spam might have caught it, too, but I don't think it did because normally, you know, I go into spam to verify that, like, some random person hasn't got in there on accident. And, yeah, it was a weird situation this year, but good because anybody can cover it if they want to.
Exactly.
Which is nice.
That's the blessing of it. For those of you who are new here, welcome. Early access for this show goes live on Thursdays. If you're a patron over at patreon.com/laststandmedia. If you're not, that's okay. We love to have you here, have you listening. We hit free feeds like Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I don't know what's going on with Google. We've had a lot of write-ins about that. I don't know if that's been fixed as of this moment in time, but we had a lot of write-ins about our show on Google Podcasts just being gone. It just disappeared. I'm like, of course, our brand new show disappeared. But I know that Dustin reached out to Google and their end is working on things. So Dustin was quick.
Okay.
He was efficient. He was effective. And then of course we are here on YouTube for free with video versions. Carrick, I cut you off. What were you about to say?
I was just gonna say I believe Google had the big switch too in the last 6 months where they changed their entire. You know how Google, they'll just be like, we don't want to do this anymore. Everything's gone. And I'm almost 100% sure it was Google that went away from podcasts to something like the name was different. I wonder if some of us just didn't get carried over or whatever. I don't have a lot of listeners
I don't know.
on Google podcast. Like I don't know if I have any. I have about 10,000 people who listen, and everyone that I can see is an Apple fan. They all have iTunes. Well, Spotify sometimes, but iTunes is the crank. Like that's the one.
Yeah,
people.
That's
use.
the one that people are really tuning into.
Yeah.
It seems,
At least for
but
me.
we definitely have a lot of Google users because I had enough.
Yeah, if they're
where people were
complaining
in my
about it.
mentions in the in the comments. I was like, wow, this is a thing. So
That's good. That's good to know.
It is definitely good to know. For those of you who are patrons and maybe missed it, because we've been posting a lot on the Last Stand Patreon, so there's been a large amount of content coming your way. If you want to have a Halo-specific discussion, a deep dive on everything from the campaign to the multiplayer to monetization, we brought Chris Raygun on to have a full talk on that. It was an excellent episode, if I do say so myself, and I think a lot of you will enjoy that. So if you missed it and you want to just hear two grown men spend an hour and 40 minutes talking about Halo Infinite and all it has to offer in its re-reveal, feel free to listen to that. I think you'll enjoy it. Last but not least, we have merch. You can rate us over on mobile. It helps us out, even if we're not on Google as of this moment in time. I realized there's an Apple rating that I paid attention to because my notes always say like what our ratings are at just so that I can keep track. And so I always had it at 400. Then I realized there's a combined rating, which has us near like 1,000. So it's actually, we're in a pretty good place. And just thank you again to the audience. I want to just share some appreciation for those of you who listen, lift us up, and embrace us, even though we're new to this whole thing. We appreciate you immensely. And this is going to be an exciting week, right? Because we got so much to talk about. And Xbox has addressed the game's concerns. So before we begin, a setup, if you will. Ahead of E3, Xbox released a video featuring head of Xbox Phil Spencer and Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella. The message was clear: Microsoft is all in on gaming. Indeed, the timing was intentional, as we could see the spending done with all that was shown off during the showcase, and it appears more is to come. Xbox confirmed their plans to integrate the Xbox app with TVs and will soon open up cloud gaming to the entirety of the Game Pass Ultimate subscribers. Cloud gaming will also come to Australia, Brazil, Mexico, and Japan later this year with Series X server support. They showed the power of Game Pass, referring to it as a, quote, true discovery engine, end quote, and the numbers don't lie. Game Pass members play 40% more games, and 90% of members say they played a game they wouldn't have tried without it. I don't know who that other 10% is, but that's kind of wild. Perhaps more important are the stats of two big day one additions for Game Pass in the name of Outriders and MLB The Show. Outriders was the #1 selling digital game on Xbox during its launch and the top 10 selling digital game on Xbox the month of April. MLB The Show was the biggest sports game for Xbox in the past year and its second biggest of all time. More important for San Diego studio is that MLB The Show was the #1 selling paid game on Xbox for that month. With more studio acquisitions seemingly in the pipeline, according to Matt Booty in a press briefing, Xbox concluded with a bold goal. They want a new first-party game on Game Pass each quarter. For those unaware, that means 4 first-party launches every year. But the aftermath shows one clear thing that we're going to get into in this episode here, which is that Xbox has games, many of them, and they are starting to put on the pressure. And I really wanted to use that as a setup for all the questions we have, because normally it's about, boys, what do you want to have added to back compat? What do you want to have added as an exclusive? And now we have specific things that we can talk about. And that has me very excited, because normally it was, here's what's going on with Bethesda and here's what's happening with Xbox. And it's that warm up. But now we've got a lot to dive into. So I'm very excited about this. And that could have been in a new section, but it was old enough where I was like, let's set the stage here. And with that, Carrick, let's get into our first warm-up question. This one comes from Dan XL. Hey, gentlemen, this one's for Matt specifically. Oh, right, okay. I think you're being way too harsh on Forza Horizon 5. I get this game isn't for you, but it's unfair for you to critique the way it was shown in the presentation. Despite it being a racer, Horizon is arguably the most popular Xbox franchise, with Horizon 4 reaching over 24 million players across Xbox and PC. The game looks visually stunning, and it's one of the few games we saw actually taking advantage of the next-gen hardware, so it makes sense to do a deep dive and build hype, especially when it's one of your premier holiday games with an actual release date. Again, I understand if it's not for you, but realize there are probably millions of people watching that demo salivating at the mouth, myself included. Anyways, thanks for taking the question. I enjoyed both yours and Carrick's Xbox live stream. Cheers. Thank you for tuning into that. I had to answer this, Bell.
I have no clue. Did you do this on the Defining Duke Ultimate?
This was in my stream. That's what they were referring to. And we had a couple write-ins about it. I had comments about it. The new thing is that Matty hates Forza. It's kind of a joke. But it was because I felt they dove too long into it. I was very critical of that. because I felt there was limited stage time where more could have been shown. But I do want to make one thing clear, jokes aside, is with Forza Horizon, this is one of the few racing games, car games, that I like. I grew up on Burnout and Need for Speed like many others, but if you notice one thing that's common there, it's arcadey stuff. Not that Horizon's super realistic. That's part of what appeals to me, is that open world kind of, you can like race against
versus
a boat.
Forza versus normal Forza, right? Yeah,
exactly. But I want to make it clear that my disgruntled approach, and by the way, for those who want to see for themselves, I have the stream reactions archived in the in my community tab, so you can see for yourself. But I want to make it clear that there's no hate for this game. I didn't like their decision on how long they showed it for, but because I didn't like it doesn't mean you don't understand it. So a lot of people came at me with like information like, oh, Matty, look how popular Forza is. It's like, I'm fully aware. We run this show. I try to keep my ear to the ground. I want to make sure people know that I can understand something and also dislike the creative choice with the showcase. But Carrick, with Forza Horizon 5, I don't want to just bounce around too much here, if you had something more to say on there, but I just wanted to gauge where you were at with this game.
No, I don't have much more to add, because we did talk about it a little bit during the last event. No, I mean, I didn't watch your stream, so I guess it must have been something different, but I've never taken you as a
I got up to
hater
take a piss, and it was pretty belligerent about it. I was like, I'm going.
Really?
Yeah.
Dude, yeah. I don't. Maybe I just don't notice that stuff, but yeah, certainly that's the one racing game that I've always seen you actually be excited for. I think you probably come into it a little bit as a Bethesda, not a Bethesda channel, it used to be, but whatever type of channel that I can see you just wanting to see more of other stuff. And
of course,
thing, it's really difficult with these because what I like to do now is to not really. It's their choice, and whatever they do is what they do. So it's like, this is what they chose to do, and then we move on. I certainly would say, you personally, I can vouch that you're definitely not a... Sorry, I dropped something. You're definitely not a Forza hater. That's for fucking... like, that's... That... Not only are you not a Forza hater, I don't think even your critique, at least what I heard when you and I did it, maybe you've adjusted since your stream, but when you and I did it,
I've probably chosen my words a little bit wiser. I was less brash.
I mean, yeah, because, dude, well, I get people all the time who are like, hey, on the podcast, you said this and this and this, on your video said this. I'm like, dude, it's a podcast, man. Like, shit gets said, and you're reacting and talking. It's like a stream. Streams are different than videos.
Extended. Yeah.
Well, and it's also more like you don't even get to think sometimes because you don't want to just imagine a podcast or a stream where you're just like us. Because you're thinking. That's not how it works. Yeah. So I think anything you guys may have heard Matty say, like, that's just your instant. Like, you're like, shucky darns. They didn't show real-time play of Starfield, but they did show 18 minutes of Forza. I could see somebody who wanted to see more Starfield going, come on, guys. What the fuck?
Yeah, and not even Starfield, right?
I'm just saying Starfield because that's a name that's popping into my head.
Yeah, I get it. But I just wanted to make it clear for the audience because there were some write-ins. I didn't want to make it all about me, but I knew there was enough where I was like, let's get this out of the way. Let's cut through the fat of this show. Anthony J. Sanchez is up next. Hey, Matty and Carrick. First of all, what an amazing showcase. In my opinion, this was the best gaming showcase I've ever seen. And I've been watching these for a long time. Everything spoke to me, and with 27 games coming to Game Pass, I flipped the lid. In saying that I also love the strategy of not only supporting the older consoles, but also moving forward. There were next-gen exclusives, something Sony has apparently given up on for the time being. I think that's a little extreme. I definitely have not given up. They just, with their most popular entries like Horizon and God of War, those they're not doing.
Yeah.
Clearly for a business decision. But they have not given up. Starfield, Series X, S, Cloud, and PC only. Flight Simulator, the same. And even Stalker 2 was in this category. Now, mind you, Stalker 2 is timed. I think a couple of months ago, I asked the question if Starfield was next-gen only, and Matty agreed. However, Carrick did scoff at this idea. What are each of your thoughts now? Not only for Starfield, but the idea of truly next-gen titles lining up. Let's go, baby. Thank you from sunny Florida. Our pleasure. Anthony. Yes, so this is one of the more exciting things I felt came out of the showcase was we started to see the commitment to next gen, which I think it's going along the same timeline we've seen with prior generations where you had that awkward, in the case of Xbox One, 2014 was the weird in-betweener year, and 15 was where you saw some more full commitment, where same thing here, 2021, awkward in-betweener, 22 is where you see that full commitment. I think you're seeing more of a commitment early on compared to prior generations, though, this time around. But what do you make of Xbox starting to line things up with, I believe Redfall was also next-gen exclusive. I'll have to double-check that, but in the case of what Anthony's written in here, Starfield, Microsoft Flight Sim, Stalker 2, these are only for the new consoles. Are you happier with the path they've taken and surprised?
Anthony must be new, because we distinctly discussed this, and I brought it up, saying if the game was delayed until the fall of next year, it would be next-gen only. And if it was this year, it would be current and next-gen for Starfield.
I do remember you saying that.
I distinctly remember saying that, because this is like, it made sense to me. So the idea that Microsoft is doing next gen only makes sense, especially when Microsoft just announced yesterday as well that you will be streaming Xbox Series X games on your Xbox Original. So Microsoft made a pretty big deal about that. Okay, sorry.
Exciting.
So we'll talk about that in a second.
No, you don't have to hold it back. I'm just
we
saying,
are
like,
doing
yeah,
a
really
very
cool.
weird situation right now where Microsoft truly doesn't believe in generate. Like, it is going to be a weird ass situation. And I've been streaming Stadia on my Xbox Series X, which is like, that makes your brain, because what if Luna works on there, which I haven't tried. That's the Ubisoft one. We're getting to this weird moment
Amazon
where,
or is it Ubisoft? I don't.
That's sorry. That's
or
Ubisoft is on Amazon. Yeah, Ubisoft is on Amazon's. It's Amazon's. But it's exciting to me because it does mean that, for example, somebody can buy an Xbox Original if they wanted. And dude, they could probably get it at a pawn shop for like $99. But if they're paying good money to get fast internet, they're playing local games that don't require, if they're like, don't require huge amounts of graphical power, and then they stream. It's awesome. And it allows Microsoft to actually say we're moving forward much quicker, much more quickly.
Yeah.
Sorry. Than Sony, because they can say,
hanging back.
Yeah, and because they're already probably paying for Ultimate or whatever the streaming service is. So Microsoft can say, Microsoft can say you can get the 30 FPS version if you want, 900p, whatever, and it's local, and it's gonna have all the positives of local but the negatives of that hardware. Or you buy the hardware, which is also what they're offering with PC already. Microsoft's all about like a weird amount of choice. It's like super low end, medium end, medium end, because you have Xbox X, Xbox Series, and then you have PC. And it's and streaming. Yeah, I think Microsoft will move forward more quickly than Sony. But dude, no one believed. Yeah, whatever. No one's going to believe me. But we talked about this. I already stated this.
No, I think they'll believe you, because when you said it, for me, I distinctly recalled that.
I was gonna break into Godfall and all those games supposedly just being PS5, and I was like, no, they're not. I know some of these games are for sure on multiple systems, and Sony was like, no, they're PS5 only. It's like, no, they're not, because the devs are saying they're not.
Dude, Godfall could run on a toaster.
Dude, well, it was crazy, and then what happens? It takes 3-6 months, and suddenly, you start getting more and more of these titles.
Upgrade.
Yeah, last year. And it's just like, dude, half of the time we're not speaking, just saying what we think. It's like a lot of times you hear it, because like a dev will accidentally slip up in a conversation and be like, well, the PS4 version, you'll be like, what? You know? And then you just, all right, we'll pass that. So I'm just saying, I think that they both have their positives and negatives, Sony and Microsoft. And Nintendo, we should probably talk about, because they annihilated E3, at least their little small section of E3. It was like
scorched the earth.
They scorched the earth.
They
basically,
show.
Microsoft dropped the mic, and those guys just dropped the stage on Microsoft's mic. It was pretty gnarly. And even though I'm just joking, I think Microsoft did phenomenal, but Nintendo was. I woke up, I slept in first time in years, and I wake up and I start reading Twitter, and I'm like, they didn't possibly announce that and that, did they? I'm like, what? Are people fucking with me? Because I'm so accustomed.
Cruising, man. I grew up with cruising with the N64, like.
But it's not only that. Connected. It's like Metroid and Breath of the Wild 2, or like all these
Advanced Wars
and Advanced Wars, and you're just like, and I woke up and I was getting all these hits, and I was like, bleary-eyed, going, well, that can't possibly, because I'm so accustomed to them edging me near just masturbation, you know. They're edging you. They're getting you close to orgasm, and then they walk off. You know, they're so good at that. They're so good at making you think. Yeah, they rocked it. So, and Microsoft did as well. Back to Microsoft. They did well. They did very well.
I agree. To touch on your point a little bit about like reminders of, oh, I said this, but then like like this wasn't remembered. It's so hard to walk that line of reminding the audience of a thing you said while also not coming across like you're beating your chest a little too much. Like one example is I reported, and people can go look, I reported 2 months ago, I was saying, hey, Xbox is working with Lucasfilm, and this was after Indiana Jones, but you have that, and then you see them working with Disney on Sea of Thieves, and I'm like, you see, this is what I'm talking about. I couldn't specify what because I wasn't sure. I heard a number of things. That was not one of them, I should specify, but it's that indicator, right? We should.
I don't have any problem. Like, if it's something big like that, where I'll be like, aha, told you. Some stuff, I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, so you guys just learn to let it slide.
Depends.
I took the hard path on that one, but you just got to let it slide eventually. As for, to wrap up Anthony's question, I think it's extremely exciting that they're committing, and touching on what Carrick said, it's because of the cloud. They're able to commit a lot earlier because you're not leaving that many people behind, especially when your subscription service is guaranteeing access to this first-party stuff. There's just an easy buy-in all around.
Yeah, there's so many ways to get in if you want.
It's just so well thought out. It's just, I don't want to sound like a fanboy. It's just very exciting, though. It's very exciting to see where they're going because you can see the path laid out. It's just, the team's doing a great job there. Huge tip of the cap to them. Iran Turl is up next. Ahoy there, DDs. Do you think Disney's willingness to lease Pirates of the Caribbean to an exclusive game bodes well in the theory that Indiana Jones might also be an Xbox exclusive? So I probably should have touched on the Lucasfilm Disney thing here, but yeah, I mean, it's got to be. It's got to be. They made it so clear this show with Redfall and Starfield. They're locking it down, if it's new, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know much about Sea of Thieves, but I don't think it's going to be on something else. I could be wrong. Maybe Sea of Thieves will magically be on the Switch. But for right now, if they're cool with Pirates of the Caribbean going, Caribbean, depending on how you pronounce it, I wouldn't be surprised if other stuff was exclusive. I think Disney also, especially when they got out of Disney Infinity, those games, I remember talking to the devs who worked there, and they were like, Disney had some ideas, they just didn't pan out because of all the different things that they tried, and they're a little risk adverse. And I have a feeling Microsoft is like, well, we'll pay for the risk. And at that point, unless you're dumb, I don't think Disney hates money. Yeah. So another thing I should tell people, if there is no plan to make something and a company comes in and says, we'll pay you to make something, the chances of that company not being exclusive are almost zero. What I mean by that is, if you have a game you want that is Pirates of the Caribbean, the chance of it being exclusive is very low. But if Microsoft says we have Sea of Thieves, or we want to do an Indiana Jones game, or we want to do blah, 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 and we want to do it, the chance of that being exclusive is actually quite high because that will not be shopped out due to the way the deal is done. So just depends on who goes to who for indie.
Absolutely. I just think one clear message that was sent amongst all during this showcase was if it is new from Bethesda, it is an exclusive. They can talk play anywhere.
Pretty much.
I've said since before the acquisition, or not before the acquisition, the official enrollment of Bethesda, that when they say play anywhere, they're referring to PC and all the devices like the dongle for TVs.
Correct.
And that type of stuff, not PlayStation and Switch. They don't give a shit about them because they've expanded so far where they're hitting more screens than consoles, and that's an important discernment to make. So, or an important thing to distinguish, rather. But I digress. Yeah, I think that you're going to see Indiana Jones exclusive, and I also said just in general to wrap it up, if Spider-Man can go exclusive, look, all due respect to Indiana Jones, anything can though. Spider-Man is probably the biggest comic book hero.
Spider-Man is way bigger than Indiana Jones too. Indiana Jones has had a couple failures. Spider-Man can get through a bad movie. It got through Spider-Man 3, which I know a lot of people hated. I didn't hate it, but it got through it. And you got 1 and 2.
I love that movie.
I didn't dislike it at all, but I know people hate it.
It's good.
The emo dancing and stuff. Yeah,
the clap and roll.
Yep. But it got past that. It got past the 2 Andrew Garfield ones, which I admit I've liked more and more. The more I sort of understand what their ideas were, and now it's into its new stuff. Dude, nothing's as big as Spider-Man. I mean,
Yeah.
like, if Spider-Man can go exclusive, then Indiana Jones, whatever
Certainly
can. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Number 4 from Zach Earwood. Hey, gents, that was a pretty great E3 presentation from Xbox. The Bethesda acquisition is turning out to be one of the most important acquisitions, and Xbox fans have another major event to look forward to with Quakecon. This is in August, by the way. Do you guys think we'll see some gameplay for Redfall or even learn more about Starfield at this year's QuakeCon? Thanks, guys. I want to gauge your expectations because I'm sort of back and forth on this. Bethesda is hosting a digital QuakeCon event. This was the place that, in the case of Skyrim, they did one of their first ever gameplay reveal, which was really exciting. I remember with Fallout 4, they did a behind closed doors sort of presentation of how character progression would work, and they kept it secret. They actually, one of the cool things about that I remember Pete Hines talking about is that they closed the doors there and said, please keep your phones away, don't share this with anyone, and it did not leak. It actually did not leak at all. We just knew something was happening in there. And that was a pretty impressive feat for Bethesda, and shows the loyalty of their fans. Do you think that with Redfall seemingly closer, they said summer, we already know Starfield, Todd said, gameplay's closer to launch. That likely means next E3 or its own separate event, depending on how much they want to debut. But with Redfall, do you think we see some of that at QuakeCon? Do you think Bethesda uses this as a platform to supply more information for some of their games?
Oh, I'll have to plead. I don't know anything about QuakeCon. I'll have to plead the fifth on that. Yeah, I don't know what they show or haven't or have showed at QuakeCon. I catch them on YouTube. What do you call it? Clips. You know, somebody will say, hey, this was shown. That's pretty much as far as... Because I always did assume they were Quake stuff. I only found out in the last couple of years that that's not, you know, it's not all
Yeah,
it
like
was.
last time was... I remember in 2018, we saw the huge Doom Eternal gameplay. That was awesome to be there live.
They did that.
Yeah. So they definitely always bring a thing to show. They've started doing that, but just gauge your expectations and not the E3 department. You may see more supplemental information. You'll probably see a panel for Fallout 76 about maybe like expeditions or something, or where they're heading with their next patch into the holiday season. But you're not going to see something along the lines of like, let's get everything rounded up. And I'd be shocked if even we heard more on Starfield. I really would, because I totally anticipate Bethesda to just go dark on this one and just show up again next year, separate from E3, and go, hey, we got a half-hour presentation on everything Starfield, and they'll have like a gameplay trailer at E3 maybe a couple months later, and that'll be it. All right. Number 5, and then we'll get into the news. Not Skywalker writes in, hi, y'all. Pretty stoked with the roadmap presented by Microsoft at E3. If what they have laid out is all we can expect for Game Pass in 2021, I am satisfied. However, the past 6 months have shown Xbox seems to constantly be working on deals, which obviously don't manifest themselves overnight. What surprise deals do you see being feasible in the next year? An acquisition like an existing partner, i.e. Asobo Studio, or Avalanche, or perhaps more day-and-date Game Pass deals? Disco Elysium when it gets its Xbox release, Elden Ring, or Persona 5 if it ever makes the jump to Xbox. Disco Elysium joining Game Pass is something I fully expect Xbox to at least pursue. Appreciate your insight as always.
Sorry, I did.
No, you're okay.
I guess I didn't get as much sleep as I thought, man. Holy crap.
I envy you.
Yeah, I got 6 hours. What'd you say? You only got 4?
4.
That's
4.
low for you, right? 6
Dude,
is
I'm usually a 7 to 8 guy.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. I think I woke up at the wrong time. Specialty, man, I don't know. I mean, I'm not, I want to get through every podcast I do for at least a year without one more fucking news website stating Carrick said blah, 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 or Matty said blah, blah, blah. I'm so done with that. So,
you've been victimized by that more than myself,
oh my
sadly.
God. It's so ridiculous. Yeah, I don't really have anything to add. I do think people should be excited about Asobo and Avalanche. Those are good choices because Asobo obviously did something that no one saw prior. No one, by the way, saw this. They went from Plague Tale Innocence to fucking Microsoft Flight Sim. How do you do that?
Wow.
How do you do that? Like that takes. I want to know. Like I want to go to their studio and be like, who wakes up and says we're doing this and that? Like how did it happen? What tech were you working on? And then Avalanche, I love both versions of Avalanche. People need to remember it's like Bethesda and ZeniMax a little bit, but Avalanche I love, and anything they work on, I could see Microsoft wanting a part of for sure. Microsoft and Avalanche, there's something there, I will say, DNA wise, that seems to overlap, I guess. I don't know. They seem very good, almost Bethesda, Obsidian, Microsoft, very good in how they might work together.
I agree. There's been so many acquisition rumors just floating around.
Yeah.
The main ones being Avalanche, Crytek, and Warner Bros. I'd heard Avalanche for some time, and I thought Crytek was not a thing, but then I want to mention this on the show as well. I mentioned, because I said it in a video, I wiped that away because that was a couple of month-old information that was out of date, and when I was updated, it sounds like a thing that could eventually happen, maybe. It sounds to me like a Microsoft let's buy the tech kind of move, not really the IP, and see what CryEngine can do for us. But despite all of that, I think if you're going to say you're all in on gaming, and then Matt Booty's like, we're going to look for great partners to give us great opportunity and give them great opportunities. Clearly something's in the works where I would be shocked if they didn't announce another set of acquisitions this year, a la E3 2018, where they're like, we got another studio and another studio. Like if they came out and just went, oh, we got Asobo, that's one thing. But it's like, we got Asobo, Avalanche, and we also got Crytek, and they just kind of announced a slew of studios. I could see that being a thing, because they want to hit every quarter. Once again, this is going to be a major point throughout the show. Every quarter, they want a first-party release. They didn't say just a new exclusive, a first-party release. And I think because of the way game development works, you need to beef up your studios a little bit more. They're already beefed up, but you need to invest a little bit more to ensure you can hit that as consistently as possible. Prevent delays aside. And then Persona just, I know Phil wants it. That's all I've said for a while, is I know Phil wants it, but I want a lot of things too. So
yeah,
I think he'll eventually get it, but for now, no.
I mean, Sega's another one. Then, if we're just going to randomly say names, Sega has some stuff that it feels like it's possible. If Sega was in worse financial shape, I think it'd be even more possible. I think Sega's started to do very well though recently. They always had their RTS games. So Creative Assembly, I think they own, right?
Yes,
I think so. Yeah. So I don't know if they were. If they were worse off, maybe. But I could definitely see some of these deals people think are deals turn out to just be exclusives. Like, Microsoft saying we want to. Because remember, Sony did Shenmue. I think the thing is people are forgetting is like once one company does it, and the other company's like, well,
you mean Xbox?
No, Shenmue was Sony. What did I say? Yes,
you said
Shenmue
Sony.
Sony paid for
Dreamcast and then
Xbox and then Sony. Sony just did PS3
Shenmue
3.
I'm sorry, I had sorry. Yes.
Oh no, that's right.
Shenmue 3.
They footed that. I could see Microsoft and all other companies, including Nintendo, just saying, well, you know what? Fucking the gloves are off. Let's just do whatever we want to do to make games. There's this moralistic high ground that people get on. And I know that they think an exclusive means it would have been made for both, but that's not exactly how business works. So I think some stuff we'll be seeing announcements-wise could be really interesting, more so than purchase-wise. Because to me, announcement means maybe it's a little farther along, where a purchase, sometimes you're just like, okay, who gets it? Does everybody get it? When was this game being made? When was this out of 15 games? But instead, if they say, no, it's not, we're not buying 15 games, we're working together on one game, there's an excitement there that I actually have that's a little bit higher, because it means it's just that one thing and they're sort of focused on it versus blah. And then you have this bullshit news cycle where everybody's like, it'll be exclusive. No, it won't. That kind of stuff.
Right. Speaking of exclusives, let's get into the news. Concluding the Xbox E3 showcase was Arcane Austin's new IP, Redfall. While the trailer showed us the concept, the follow-up BethesdaNet article allowed us to sink our teeth into some real details on the co-op FPS open-world title. For starters, the name itself, Redfall, is the name of the town, island town, that you'll be exploring as you chart the path through its signature arcane style. The article defines that as using bullets and stakes, or something more subtle, indicating the game will support stealth and not just full-blown action. While it is being talked about as a co-op game, the post also confirms that you'll be able to play this game alone if you choose to do so. Furthermore, the game will feature customizable weapons, unique skills, and gear. Of the 4 playable characters, there is Devinder Crowsley, who is an aspiring inventor armed with his own creations, Layla Ellison, a biomedical engineer at Redfall Technical University, Remy De La Rosa, who is a combat engineer and formerly part of an elite Navy rescue unit, and Jacob Boyer, who is an ex-military sharpshooter. The only information we were given on what gamers will be doing in the open world was clearing out outposts full of human cultists as you investigate what led to this plague and learn more about the characters you're playing as. In a supplemental interview, Pete Hines emphasized this point when speaking with IGN. Quote, "I love that Arcane has said, we know what we are known for, and we do what we do well. We want to take that, go bigger, and do something different. If you like that solo experience, you can play it by yourself or in co-op. Redfall is heavily systems-based. The combat loop and exploration is really fun. You're going to get more of a sense of what this game is so different. It's not the same as any other 4-player co-op shooter. Redfall is doing a lot of things Arcane is well known for," end quote. Arcane's had this trend for me personally. We have to see it in action, but both with Deathloop and now Redfall, I have this moment of, yes, it's Arcane, but as they explain what the game is, they just struggle to deliver what that is. Deathloop being the main example where I struggled to get excited at first because I didn't even know if you could play stealth in Deathloop because they're like, you're on a timer, and if you die, you restart, and you got to kill them in X amount of time. I'm like,
right.
Man, okay. But what I love about Arcane games is crawling through the environment, being very meticulous, and how I approach the level, replaying those levels. And so with Redfall, I'm like, I see co-op, I see action, and I'm thinking, well, I love Arcane, I love their level design, especially. They have some of the most talented level designers in the industry. But what is it going to look like in action? Of course, we have to wait and see. But have you had this apprehension of becoming excited for their games like I have with the way they're revealing them and marketing them? Because I feel like Bethesda has struggled with this, but maybe it's just how I'm interpreting it.
No, because remember, you liked the Dishonored games more than me. I had issues with 2, and I didn't get to do Last of the Outsider, or Voice of the Outsider. Was that what it was called?
Death of the Outsider.
Death, which you said was the best one. And I got to play a little bit of it, and certainly seemed like it was awesome, but I didn't get to jump back in. Redfall looked okay in the CGI, but I'm really questioning if... I think Pete is probably doing PR right now, because I don't understand what he's saying. What we saw was 4 to 5 minutes of CGI, if not longer. But he's saying he's already... I mean, he's personally saying he's played it, because he says it's super fun, all this kind of stuff, and it's like, well, if he has played it, super fun, all of the combat loop is already in there, why did we not see that in the trailers? Or in the event?
I get that.
So, I don't really believe... I've told you this before, I think that a lot of times these guys say stuff, and then you start looking at it, and you're like, oh shit, they haven't touched it at all. Like, and maybe that's what you're picking up on, is that it's PR speak, but it's not really I've touched it speak, because there is a difference when somebody has experienced something. It's, by the way, you'll hear this all the time. You'll hear people talking about it in war, writing books. You'll hear they'll be like, that didn't sound real, but then a person who went to war will write a book or help, write a book, and somebody will be like, whoa, that felt like real war. That like that person knew how to explain it. I mean, he's just dropping PR words. So, and their CGI did nothing for me. So I would say I've always been a little hesitant on their stuff. Deathloop, I still don't even know.
Deathloop is still a bit of a mystery. I agree.
Just
I'm
like it's coming out
more than I was, but
I don't even. I wouldn't even say. I would say like 1 to 10. I'm a 5. I'm right in the middle. Like when it comes out, I will play it for sure. I'm excited to review it, but I don't know even what it is, which is fine too. That's another thing. I know people are like, oh, he's just ambivalent. It's not necessarily that. It's that I'm okay. I don't get scrunched up over this stuff. Like, I know people are like, they're sleeping, they're waking up. They're like, Deathloop, what's going on? That's not me. So, yeah, I don't know. Too much CGI.
I feel like they've cleared
CGI.
up. I agree. I feel like Deathloop they've cleared up, but it took a while. And as someone who has their ear to the ground, and I'm very connected, especially to the Bethesda side of things, it took me until I think there was a specific preview that came out, and they clarified, like, yeah, you can do stealth gameplay and take your time as long as you want. And I'm thinking to myself,
But did they show that,
what?
Matty, or did they just say it?
They showed it. They did show it as they explained it. But the thing was that this whole time they're pitching this story, you're on a time limit. You're being hunted. If you die, you restart. And it felt very Majora's Mask-like, which sounds, by the way, fine. But it's selfishly, want to emphasize that, it's not what I look for in Arcane, right? I want to take that time. I want to explore it delicately, as I always do. And so now I know I can do that, or at least it seems I can. And it's like, okay,
right.
now I'm buying in a little bit. With Redfall, I think this is what we mean when we say there's a problem with CGI, is that you don't got to pound gameplay constantly, but I couldn't really quite tell, outside of it's a vampire game with multiple players, what Redfall actually was. And so now we're seeing it's Arcane style in its design, but the only thing we can really offer some thoughts on without much experience is the systems in place, which is upgrading your characters, customizing weapons and gear and unique skills. Do you think these 4 characters you have are going to almost, how Dishonored 2 had Emily and Corvo? You could play as either of them, and they had their own different approach to how you'd interact with the world. I would think it'd be really cool if each of these 4 playable characters were just like that, where they did 4 drastically different things that allowed you to interact with the world in their own separate ways. That would be the dream, I think, from an Arcane standpoint.
Yeah, I think that is a dream. Because okay, so did you read the classes? Did you read the guys? You did. You read them out loud.
I read them out loud. Yeah.
If you look at it, like, there's at least 2 or 3 military units. There's 2: military sharpshooter and elite Navy rescue unit. And they said you can play solo. You don't want to leave somebody with a really shit build on solo, which usually what they do is they find a way so that everybody's a jack of all trades, master of none, like a bard. Yeah.
Yep.
So, and people don't like playing bards. I mean, they may now. I don't know. I don't follow D&D as much,
They're
but in the old days,
D&D,
it used to be the joke of, like, it's cool to be the master, or it's cool to be, somebody who can do all these things, but not being really good at one thing can also make you feel like there's no edge to it. Because I'm okay with weakness, man. I'm absolutely okay that Thief is one of my favorite games, and if you got up close to somebody in Thief, that was the end, man. That was like you were probably dead, and it was like that was the entire way to get. And I was fine with that. That was the way it should be.
Right on.
So my hope is they all do play different. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think the way they're talking and systems, unique skills, has there ever been a unique skill in a game in the last 10 years? I would challenge you to tell me there has been. So what really matters is the classes and the skills mixed together and how they pay off. I would say the closest we got is a game that other people, I just found out recently, didn't like the skills for, which still surprises me. Necromunda, I was like, dude, you can run along the walls and get skills for that. That's unheard of. And then I was reading somebody else's, and they were like, no good skills. And I'm all, what? What? Like, what? I mean, what? So, I don't know, man. Maybe I want more than the average bear. I don't know. I want more.
Well, certainly
unique.
From the team that did Prey, this is the Arcane Austin team making this, and they
should be trusted for this, right?
They definitely should be, because I feel like Moon Crash was that first. It felt new. Right?
I didn't play Moon Crash. You did. So,
procedural generation in AAA. It's
a little bit of it.
Extremely good.
Yeah.
Extremely good. And I highly recommend those who are listening look into it. I'm not going to say just outright go buy it. Not because I can't recommend it, but just Prey seems to be finding its legs in a second wind.
Yeah.
But, look into Moon Crash, because it does have procedural generation elements, but it's really good. Number 2, we get into Forza 5 again, or Horizon 5, I should specify. The long-rumored Forza Horizon 5 was finally revealed at the Xbox and Bethesda E3 2021 showcase, and it will be arriving November 9th this year. An interesting twist is fans can get it up to 4 days early, November 5th, if they're willing to pay up. Forza Horizon 5 features 4 editions now. The Standard Edition, Premium Add-ons Bundle, Deluxe Edition, and Premium Edition. Kind of reminiscent of EA. The Premium Add-ons Bundle includes early access along with the Welcome Pack, Car Pass, VIP membership, and 2 expansions when they're available. Going for $50, this is ideal for those of you who download through Game Pass and want to commit to more. The Deluxe Edition goes for $80 and includes the full game along with the Car Pass, and the Premium Edition includes the same as the Premium Add-ons Bundle alongside the full game, which goes for around $90 to $100. I wanted to throw this in here, number one, because I think the release date within pre-orders is coming back. Atlas has been doing this. They did it with Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne HD. They did it with Persona 5 Strikers. Now we're seeing Microsoft do it. What I found more fascinating about this is this, and this may be a common thing, by the way. And when I say common, I mean it may have happened before, but it is new to me, and I felt we should discuss it, is the Premium Add-ons Bundle, which gives you all different things, like the expansions and stuff, which is seemingly a purchase package geared to Game Pass subscribers. You know, you download it, but there's still a thing for you to buy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How do you feel about this?
I mean, Forza 4 had an early thing as well.
So yeah, that's what I was saying. I was
3 days,
unsure if that was the case,
yeah,
but
I think it was 3. And then this having premium deals. This is why I don't want people making games for Game Pass.
mm-hmm.
So this is the same way I feel about Halo. I don't want them making a free-to-play Halo. I don't want people adjusting the very way a game is delivered. And Forza's shown even more of a problem with this, because I think it was the last Forza Motorsport. No. Maybe it was the last Forza Horizon. I play them both, so it's hard to remember which it was, but they had some issues with microtransactions. That people are unhappy, and that doesn't mean anything, right? People will be unhappy about anything. If you give somebody something free, they'll still be unhappy. Like there's always that person, but yeah, there's too many. I also don't think any other edition should exist at all. I'm old school. I want the manual.
You and I both.
If there's a fucking map, I want the map. If there's the game, I want the game. If you sell me an Ultimate Edition, it doesn't have the game, fuck you. That's not an Ultimate Edition. It's not even an edition of the game. Shouldn't be sold. There's no such thing. Those things should be purchasable on a website somewhere else. A person should be able to get a statue if they want a statue, but they should not have to buy the game if they don't want the statue. They should be able to just go buy the statue. But you should not have these premium editions with 8,000 things. You shouldn't be making stuff already just pointing out that you're basically have a car pass version just for the Game Pass people. I mean, I get it, because this is going to happen, right? Because that's where they're going to make their money, on the Game Pass version. This will happen, by the way. I'm just saying I'm bitching now. I'm preemptively bitching because this is the first of legions of games that that will see changes to how they're delivered to us, which sucks. But I mean, if they're good, they're good. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's not going to make the game worse. We should clarify that to anyone who, I've learned my lesson. I know how people feel about Forza.
To see.
Yeah, exactly. It's just that I think we're seeing shadows of the potential of how Game Pass is affecting the delivery of games. I am not going to bitch up a storm about it, but I can't stand when company has a game ready and they're like, we could ship it November 5th, but you can pay for it November 5th. We're going to give it to you.
Oh, you mean the early weird thing?
Yeah, even Atlas, man. Like, look, I support Atlas a ton. Yeah, Persona did it. SMT3 HD did it. I see it and I'm like, why, man? Like, really? Yeah. It feels so ancient and it feels so cheap. It looks desperate to me. And especially a company like Microsoft, I don't think they should be. I just don't think this should be occurring. And so I'm not going to make a huge shitstorm out of it, but I just genuinely don't think it should be happening, at least under their roof. If Atlas wants to go do it, they're a little bit smaller, capitalize on the people like myself who are hungry for constant JRPGs. Sure, we will be the fools. But I think beyond that, if the game's ready, ship it that day, man. Just ship it that day. Put it out November 5th. Just do it.
Or do it earlier. I don't think paying more or paying early should result in a 4-day. If you say this is 2 weeks early and there's going to be a rollover, as in you're going to lose your, like it's, if you're buying early, you're just buying early to play it early, but be aware we're doing some last minute fixes. I would actually be more okay with that than this, because this is arbitrary. Arbitrary versus like some kind of thing they may be doing are completely different. If they're like, we want you in for the early server tests, be aware it's not going to be perfect, but if you want to pay more, you can jump in well ahead of time. I would actually be, weirdly enough, okay with that. I'm not really okay with either one, but I'm even less okay with a couple days early. Like, that's just dumb. And by the way, do you know how dumb it is? I can guarantee you, unless they're doing something really weird with how they're shipping it, the physical versions will be at multiple stores well before either time frame comes up. So that means people will be, storing it. They'll be getting it through the, breaking embargo, because they'll be getting it at a store. Anyway, so it's just like you're not really helping anybody. It's just confusing the entire prospect.
It's just interesting to
what's
talk
VIP
about.
versus Car Pass these days? VIP gives you the Car Pass, right? Or something? It's been a long time since I played the last Forza.
I know some people expect us to know it, but I say it to just be completely straightforward. I like Forza, but I don't like it enough to invest myself in its DLC cycle, and I never will. So I apologize to the audience who's maybe looking for a little bit of a deeper cut on that.
I see people bitch about that all the time. It's like, dude, you can't know everything. I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like,
I know we're an Xbox show, though, and there's an expectation of knowledge, but I'm sorry, when it comes to Forza, that's not my deep cut. Like, people who listen to me know where I know, which is pretty much everything but racing and, like, puzzle games. Like, I can
take your expectation of knowledge and shove it, too. Sorry. Dude, we are only going to know a certain amount of stuff. How are you going to know everything about I got one person who was mad at me about a backwards compatible game that I suggested because I didn't know the exact date it was released. And I'm like, seriously, man? They DM'd me. They're like, dude, you need to know exact date that was released on the original system. And I was just like, wow. Like, at some point, you're just like, dude, there's so many. That's the thing, by the way, and this is a warning to anybody. With so many games coming out, this is going to happen way more than way less. It's going to be, there's so many titles. How many titles have you brought up where I'm like, what? When's that coming out? And that's just for our ecosystem. Dude, it's ridiculous. We were talking about all this stuff on E3, and then the next day? No, the day prior, Microsoft already had an event, which was about, and they were doing their sit down. They were talking about streaming, which half my stream didn't know. And then there's an event this Thursday, right?
Yeah. Yep. Extended showcase.
There's so much. It's impossible, man. Or we can hire a researcher.
Just totally filter our thoughts through this researcher and just not
just
be
to hire the researcher.
Anymore.
There's just a lot. There's a lot.
Yeah. Here's a place I have knowledge. Obsidian. They made their presence felt at E3 with the announcement of Grounded's Shroom and Doom update, as well as the reveal of The Outer Worlds 2, which will serve as an Xbox exclusive unlike its first entry. The only revealed data we have on the RPG sequel is that it's set in a new star system with a new crew, meaning that Parvati isn't back. For those who are wondering about Avowed, Obsidian provided an update for that as well in an Xbox Wire post. They state that the team is hard at work, making something we're sure fans of our games and the Pillars of Eternity universe are going to love. While we're not showing anything right now, we're looking forward to showing off what we have been working on soon. There have been murmurings that the Game Awards will be a spot for many showcases from Xbox, and I think that sort of fits the time slot if Avowed's not there at E3, or sorry, since it was not at E3, that maybe we see it there, or maybe a Hellblade 2 re-reveal. I mean, there's something there in that wordplay, don't you think? He ponders. He thinks. He stews. He contemplates.
Yeah, I have no clue. I have no
you
clue
don't?
about those.
I think they're getting ready for something, because the Outer Worlds 2 to me was a wise announcement, because it in the sense that it goes, hey, you might be wondering about the future of this franchise. We are going to do another one, but more importantly, for I think the fans of the console is knowing this will be exclusive. Like, this is going to be on our system, answering the question that a lot of people have about Wolfenstein and Doom, and I think you can apply that to now Bethesda, but we're seeing this sequel for The Outer Worlds is locked down. It is exclusive. So I understand why they're saying, hey, the future of this series is with Xbox. Sign up if you care. The Shroom and Doom update I'm less interested in. But I think with Avowed, the rumor and report is 2023. I don't know when in 2023.
For Avowed?
Yeah. That's the aim. And so is it too early to hit then? See, the reason I ask these questions is because with Xbox having so much to show, a lot of people think, oh, it's slam dunk. We'll take Starfield, slam dunk. It's E3. Like, that's when we'll see the gameplay next. And I look at how Bethesda reveals their games and announces their stuff, and especially Bethesda Game Studios, where they like to hit the stage for 30 minutes showing everything. That does not fit. If you look at what Xbox did with the pacing of their showcase, the longest they stopped was for 10 minutes for Forza, which really wasn't that long in the scheme of things. So I think they do maybe a separate showcase. And what you're seeing is potential creative control on how reveals are done, where it's less Xbox calling shots and these individual studios deciding when they want to do things. So for maybe Obsidian, it makes more sense for them to say, let's give the Game Awards a gameplay trailer, kind of like how they revealed The Outer Worlds at the Game Awards before its release. Which was a very exciting moment for me. I loved doing that trailer breakdown. But more to my point is, I do think they're gearing for something. And be prepared. Be prepared. We'll see.
And you think it'll be about Avowed? Even though Avowed's that far out?
Yeah. Maybe something along the lines of what they're doing with Starfield as well. It might not just be a gameplay trailer. Maybe something like Starfield, where in this Avowed trailer that we got, it's Eora, and that's really it. You get the Skyrim inspiration. It sells the idea of it. Perhaps now we get a narrative trailer explaining what is happening in Avowed, and you get to see I remember like digging up the leaks for Avowed, and there was armor, different plating that was on like a lead artist's art station, and you could see it. It was beautiful, man. It's like getting the factions for that, seeing the stage be set. I think something like that's more likely, I would speculate. But Obsidian saying something soon, and once again, I just imagine PR revising these things and going through it, and they check these types of wordings, and to me, it indicates intentionally something is coming at some point in time. All right. Number 4.
I just want to say...
Oh, sorry, apologies.
No, if the Game Awards came around and Jeff was like, we're here to announce that Bethesda has decided, Obsidian has decided to change the shit-ass name of Avowed to something good.
Oh, no,
I'd
he's
be
doing
really
it
happy.
again. No.
I just want to say,
I'm moving on.
Get it out
I'm moving on.
I'm
saving you for the comments.
Oh, are people... I never look at the comments. Are people mad about the Avowed? Do people like the Avowed name?
No, actually, I will say this, Carrick. I take your side, but I will say one comment made a really good point on our Cognito episode, which was that Forspoken is a game that does exist. And in all fairness, PlayStation may be winning the competition for worst video game name.
They might have tweeted me because I think I told them that gonorrhea and herpes both exist. It doesn't mean either one should be celebrated. So just because... Dude, I played Forsaken, which is also... That was an old shooter like Unreal, but you were on bikes, 3D or 8D bikes. You could go up and down. Also a terrible name. Like, I don't know. Forspoken's a pretty bad name, though. Godfall's Godfall's not a... Yeah, Godfall's not a bad name.
Godfall screamed generic, let's be honest.
Okay,
like, you just knew what you were getting.
Let's go with the hot take, though. If you came into this world, would you not think that the two dumbest names in the universe are Spider-Man and Batman?
Spider-Man more than Batman, right?
Okay, you think so? Because Batman's a little dark, a little like
Batman,
maybe a
you
little
kind
scary.
of get the idea more instant.
Right.
Spider-Man, it's like, dude, what the hell is this guy?
It's so bad. If you don't follow that stuff, and like you were just to interject and somebody said, well, it's like Batman and Robin. Every time I hear Robin, I laugh my ass off because to me, Robin is a little bird. It's like it's the most waifish, and then the idea of Spider-Man sometimes will hit my brain. You know, sometimes you'll hear a word and your brain won't put a meaning to it. You just hear the word and you're like, it sounds like nothing. Pork. Like the word pork. It just sounds. It doesn't mean anything unless you remember the meat. And for some reason, Spider-Man's so bad. Whenever I hear it, because I like Spider-Man. I love their games. But whenever I hear Spider-Man, I'm like, wow, who was really bored that was the best they could come up with?
It may sound off topic.
Venom's better.
But it shows how context is so important, obviously for naming, but even visually. So I was editing one of my videos, and my camera died in the middle of the recording, but this mic was still rolling. So I'm talking to it. I didn't even hear my camera die.
Oh,
and so at one point I start clapping my hands. I'm like, yeah, let's go. And like, all you saw was a black screen of me just doing, oh my God,
wow.
This is great. And I'm just like, dude, this sounds fucking horrible. I was like, I'm leaving it in. I'm leaving it in, scarring my audience.
You have to. You got to leave that in so people can see. When you separate the visual, right? I feel the same way about music. Have you ever played a game and like if you turn the music down or off and you run around, you're like,
yeah.
It's not the same
here.
You know. Yeah, that's all.
It's
that's
like when
awesome,
you understand the lyrics to a song, you're like, dude, this is sick, and then you get the lyrics and you're like, wow, this is really depressing, actually.
Yes, or where you've messed up the words and your words are way better than the artist's. You're like, da-da-da, and you get them and you're all, what? Or if you go in and hear there's a term for this, the elevator music. Fusic. I think it's fusic, but it's the orchestra. So you'll go into like an elevator and they're playing Def Leppard, Pour Some Sugar on Me, but it's like violins and shit, and your brain is having all these kind of strokes trying to figure out what's going on. Or you hear the censored song where they drop the F-bomb in the real version, and in the censored one, they'll be like, what the frick is wrong with you? And you're like, wow, that's bad. That's so bad.
I heard my first censored song for a while. I want to say it was at a wedding. Like, the guy played a censored song.
Oh, gotcha.
Like I think it was what's that song by Fall Out Boy where they're like closing the goddamn door, but it was like closing the damn door.
Gosh darn.
And it was like,
oh, that's bad.
Yeah,
and that makes you think that goddamn is actually bad too. Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah.
So like if you take out F-U-C-K and you put frick, you're like, oh, frick sounds dumb, but then once you replace the actual word, you're like, well, that also doesn't sound. Like, now it just sounds bad. Now you've just ruined it for everybody.
Yeah,
anyway, tangent aside.
We could go on.
That all started from me bitching about the name, right?
Yes, it did.
There we go. Tangent aside. All right, we'll move on.
Number 4, while Lord Cognito, shout out to Lord Cognito, strongly suggested we wouldn't be seeing Everwild, Matty foolishly believed it would make an appearance otherwise. Alas, Rare's only presence was with a new Sea of Thieves update. Surely it will be at E3 2022, myself and many others foolishly suggested to themselves. That seems unlikely. So what is happening with Everwild, which was revealed at XO19? Video Game Chronicle provides the goods. When creative director Simon Woodruff departed, the game faced a complete overhaul in both design and direction, as well as facing more changes with its leadership. It's fair to say the game's design has been started from scratch, according to multiple sources familiar with the project. The optimistic target isn't encouraging either. The write-up states that Rare likely won't have this out until 2024. Now, Greg Mayles leads the reboot, who guided some of the studio's biggest hits, Donkey Kong Country, Banjo-Kazooie, Viva Pinata, and Sea of Thieves. As of last year, Everwild was a third-person adventure game with God elements, which specifically avoided combat. What do this was one of those moments I thought was kind of disappointing. I was hoping to see this one soon, not because I'm excited, but I'm very curious what it is. I want to see what Rare is beyond, of course, Sea of Thieves. And I think while Sea of Thieves, all due respect, fantastic game, shout out to Ben once more, we get that. I do think that a lot of people are hungry to see Rare go to something, I guess, single player maybe, or something that's not just Sea of Thieves. It's been Sea of Thieves since 2017. People are ready for more.
Yeah, and it'd be nice if they did a good game. Like Sea of Thieves is, I mean, it's trash tier level game. I'm just joking. I just wanted that to get into the podcast.
I was just drinking my water like, just pretend you didn't say it.
But no, I would love to see Viva Pinata or something like that. When it comes to Everwild, to be honest, this is one of those games that was so far out that I don't track it at all. And it got overlapped with Kona, the one with the girl. I think it's called Kona. Kenna. I apologize.
Bridge of Spirits. I know you're talking about.
So there's about 10 games that all decided to do the same, like, color schemes and overall ideals. And after a while, my brain was just like, And this one was so far out and then disappeared on everybody's news that I just haven't tracked it. I just don't. I mean, I honestly thought it was canceled, or at the very least, well, apparently it was rebooted. So we'll have to see. That's a long ways. You're talking minimum 2024. In fact, gonna be honest, guys, Rare doesn't need to work on something or push anything. So if they don't like whatever it is, I would seriously doubt they'll continue doing it. So, like, they have the money that they might be working on it and go, you know what, this isn't, it's not floating our boat. Let's do something else. So,
yeah, I just want to see this game. I want to lay eyes on it. This has been a recent development because I was told after I made my predictions and we posted our episode and I posted my video, a couple people who would know reached out to me and they were just like, so about your Everwild insistence, let's talk. And
Everwild insistence of what kind? What were you insisting?
Just that it would be there. I was like, despite despite all odds, it will be there because I just felt timeliness. It's got to happen.
Yeah.
The sources are wrong. More so, I did this sarcastically, but they were like, just so you know, the term that I was told. I just want to share with the audience. The term I was told was soft reboot. This is not to muddy the reporting of Video Game Chronicle, but reboot from scratch and soft reboot overlap, but they are two pretty different things, and one is definitely more severe than the other. So to what extent, I don't know. I'm just reporting what I had been told, just to let the audience know. But despite all that, it'll be a while no matter what. So that may be inconsequential to you as a listener. What is encouraging is Greg stepping in, who has guided, like I mentioned, some of their strongest titles. And I do like the idea of a game with God elements and no combat. There's just so many games out there that, by the way, are doing combat well and better than ever. But to have something being made, know something's in the pipeline that taps into something different, something a little more. I think I saw Jeff Grubb corroborate this reporting and describe it more like getting animals to do things for you. That sounds more interactive and different. So I'll wait and see what this game's like. But I'm interested in it as we continue on with the show. All right, number 5. If you are an Xbox One owner, fret not. Xbox doesn't want to leave you behind, provided your internet connection holds up. Quote, for the millions of people who play on Xbox One consoles today, we are looking forward to sharing more about how we will bring many of these next-gen games, such as Microsoft Flight Simulator, to your console through Xbox Cloud Gaming, just like we do with mobile devices, tablets, and browsers. End quote. This came from a Xbox post after E3 had concluded. Just wanted to throw this in there. We talked about it a lot at the top of the show, so we don't really have to dabble on this much. But this is, of course, very encouraging to people who are struggling to get their console, that if your connection can hold up, you can take an exclusive product like a Starfield, we'll say, and stream that, or if Redfall, and stream that to your Xbox One. So you're not quite stuck yet, but as time goes on, you'll want to upgrade. But this lessens and eases the urgency if you have a proper connection. And what do you make, Eric, of how I think they're doing, once again, I don't want to sound too much overpraising, but I just think they're doing such a phenomenal job where I remember when they showed xCloud and they showed the phone was sideways, someone was playing Forza on it with a controller connected to it, and I went, I'm not fucking playing that. I know I'm not playing that. That will never happen. You know, you see it on now phones, tablets, they're going to TVs. They want to keep old systems alive through streaming. It shows where we're heading, and they're still, they've said as much, making new consoles that are many years away. So it hasn't hurt their development in that aspect. What do you make of this moving machine that is Xbox as it stands now?
I don't have much to add. That's the way it should. This is like the way it should be. I think people who don't want to do mobile because they don't like the controllers, they don't like touch, or they don't want to buy a controller dock for their TV or their tablet or their cell phone, can just have an Xbox. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous. So the idea of them playing Outer Worlds, I'm trying to think of games that I would play streaming. Because some games you won't want to play streaming. You just won't. There are online games, by the way, that are great. And shooters. But I'm saying I think the majority would want native if it's possible. a native hardware,
of course,
or whatever. But the idea that you can try it at least. So like if you do try it, and I do know that their browser, I mean, people are really impressed with Rainway and the integration and all that stuff. If they're able to just basically be like, update your Xbox, and suddenly you go to your thing and there's like a big button that's like, do you want to play, you know, your games? What I don't think people realize is because of the way streaming works, every one of your games that's been upgraded will be available to you for free on the streaming anyway as the better version. So that means if you have an older game that's been some way improved on the series S and X, then you'll actually be able to freely just suddenly play that. Now that won't be every game. You won't want to play every game like that, but there are some games that are like now doing 60 FPS on a Series X, and you'll be like, holy shit. Like, you know, and what will you trade? 15 milliseconds of lag? If you're down at that level, I challenge most people to play normal games where that would be an issue. There are games where that would for sure be an issue, but for a lot of games, it would be, the trade-off would be well worth it. Also, Microsoft gets away with something pretty sneaky, which is you bought your Xbox original at some point, and then you're just paying into their service even more now later, because you have
you're buying in to have it, and then you'll have the console and the service.
And so there's this. Yes, right. Are they not buying another one? Correct, they're not. But that also means Microsoft isn't having to make another one, which faces COVID and production issues, and the fact that consoles don't make a ton anyway. In fact, I'm pretty sure we know that Microsoft is still losing for the series systems. So
yeah, as far as
in a way that, yeah, I mean, in a way they can be like, dude, we just signed this person up for 12 months, you know. Right now, we get the money right now versus them saving up for 3 months, possibly getting the competitor's machine. There's some weird shit going on. I know for me, it's become a huge deal because I have Xbox S original and X and a Series S and a Series X. And they're in multiple different places. And the idea that I could go to any place right now, and as long as the game was a particular game, just turn it on and play the Series X version. I mean, Matty, it's sort of weird, but if you buy an S, you can play all the S games, and if you wanted, you'd be able to stream the X version.
Right.
That's some nefarious Matrix level Inception shit right there, where you're like, you buy the lower level upgrade, but you're still able to play the streaming upgraded version. Like, that's pretty unheard of. So
yeah,
sorry, that was a lot when I said I didn't have a lot to say.
No, I think it's great that you found something to say, because it was worthwhile to hear. And of course, what I thought of was the great opportunity that's there for, let's say you're window shopping, right? I always say Game Pass is like digital window shopping. And now with xCloud, and they're saying you can test these games out before downloading them. Let's say you just want to see what you want to get when your shiny new console arrives, when you invest in that.
True that.
You test out these games, you test out Starfield, Redfall, whatever, and go, I like this, I don't like this, and now you know what you want to buy when the console comes in. It's almost like an extended version of a demo if you're locked in the service, and I don't think that can be understated, because one thing that we said at the top of the show is the amount of people who are logged into Game Pass, how much they play games, and it's been confirmed that they spend more on games too in separate stats. So you look at this type of stuff and go, well, now if you extend that into cloud streaming where people can test it, then they're more likely to just quickly try something and buy it if they like it within the first hour. This will be huge down the line, especially as you can try it on your phone, tablet, TV, and even your old Xboxes. It's great stuff.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Number 6, it's not all big gains. Currently, the only standing Xbox Series X/S console exclusive is set to leave the platform September 3rd. That game is The Medium, a title that touts itself as a psychological horror game, which is heading to PlayStation 5 along with a physical retail release. Carrick, nothing of value is lost.
Thank you. I hope they sync that up in the podcast, because nothing of fucking. I'm sorry. I just had a 2-hour discussion about this in my Discord today. And I was like, in the other Discord, actually, there were people, they weren't bitching. They were like trying to figure out like what people thought of it and how the ratings. Now, admittedly, it's only a 71%. I still feel that's generous.
That's very generous. I agree.
Right. So, but ignoring that we're right and everyone else who disagrees is wrong. When you look at this, like, It is weird that that's the only standing Series X and S exclusive. That is weird that it's going.
Right.
But I think it's also weird that it's going to PlayStation. I think that's good, though. I don't want Bloober Team to not make money from it. I don't feel that it was egregious bad. It wasn't like Gene Rain or something.
Boring. It reminded me of Godfall, I'll be honest.
Right, but aggressively boring to me never would cause me to say I don't want them to do well. You know, I would just be like, it's an aggressively boring game. It's a mediocre movie. It's a whatever. So I think being on PlayStation's good. I would say that a game like this, whatever the lies are about the multiple world thing, which I'm sorry, that's a line of bullshit. I would love to see it on the Switch as a streaming title, as in like their Resident Evil. I would like to see that. I would like to see it on those kind of games because I think it would work on Switch. Not magically be 10 times better, but I think that what it tried to do would be more impressive or interesting on the Switch than it is on a console. Because on a console, especially like if you see Rift apart or something, you're like,
right.
They were trying to say that, wow, you can slowly go through empty locations in 2 worlds. Like, that is what the medium is, right? That is all the medium offers, is slowly walking through boring locations. So on the Switch, I would like to see that. On the PlayStation 5, I don't think they're gaining anything. We're not losing anything.
I'm sorry. I'm just I'm remembering that I've spent like 9 hours of my life with that. That's a whole day, you know? Like, it's a whole day I spent just... Have you ever done that? Have you ever like added up your game clock and you're like, you pop that out of your life? You're like, what did I do at that time?
Yeah, Death Stranding.
There? Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Not to complain about our position, but just in general. Like...
No, I some games when they bore you are way worse than when they're bad.
Yes,
when they're exactly. You know, you're like, people don't realize that if a game's bad, that's like, man, this thing's going to get... Right. How did this happen? How did that happen? When you have to engage somebody, and when it's boring, it's hard to engage them, right? It's hard to engage you when it's mediocre.
You literally get put to sleep. I don't know how else to say it.
I did. On Medium, I absolutely nodded off in my chair twice, where I was like... And I do that thing where, and even my wife, because she shares the room most of the time, will be like, would you quit making sounds? Because I'll be over here, and I'll be like, oh... what is happening? Because it was so glacial, dude. And by the way, huge fan of walking simulators. That is what I like. I cut my teeth on those. That's actually most of my first reviews were those. I love those games. I'm sorry, those games were good though. Well, that's the difference.
That would make, number one, legitimize your reaction even more, but I think it hits more harder with you being there, right? It's like when I come out with my review for Biomutant, you know, people know how hyped I get for RPGs.
Right.
And it's like when you come out and you go, well, this one looked great, but sorry, I haven't played it, by the way, since its patches, which apparently have really helped the game along.
Oh, good. But yeah, I got to get back into that and try those too.
I do want to give it a shot again, but despite that, you know, it was one of those experiences where I think people listened a little more intently because they knew the catalog of experience that came with it. Number 7. Pretty interesting change here that I didn't anticipate. Xbox is updating the box art for the new generation of a Best Buy listing is to be trusted. Brandished along the top left corner is a white bar listing the supported systems. The Xbox labeling has been shifted from the middle to the top left corner as well. The Xbox Series X support symbol is no longer a green giant stamp, but rather tucked in the top right corner with a small logo. The box art essentially thins things out, allowing for more room to see the actual art on the cover and not the plastic surrounding.
Talking about sleeping through something. Holy shit, Matty. Why are we talking about this, man? What are you doing to me?
Because it's different. I think it matters, man. I love box art.
You collect them, don't you?
I love collecting.
Where's my box art? I gotta have some. I have Syndicate. Yeah, what do you like?
Don't tell me you're about to say Assassin's Creed Syndicate.
I do. It's one of my favorites. I like Jacob and Evie. Yeah, I think that's all. It's pretty much all I have around. I have Forzas, I guess, but do you know what? I couldn't tell you what they look like. It just dawned on me. So I have Forza.
Mm-hmm.
And I do not know what their covers are. I know they're a car driving somewhere.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think there's a car.
There's a car. I'm not lying. This is weird. So, because I buy them and then, you know, you take the disc out and I don't like do anything with the cover too much. And I don't have a place to, if I had a spot, maybe you know, but I don't have a spot to
I'll admit it's kind of inherently materialistic. Like you could just
showcase
have it digitally, but you know, I just like the bookshelf.
Well, no. I think the physical thing makes sense. I just think knowing what the cover looks like is a step way beyond me. Like, I'm trying to remember a good. Because have you ever had these discussions in forums where somebody's like, "Hey, man, some of the best cover art is," and I'm like, "Dude, I couldn't tell you. I can tell you what the title screens are." Does that make sense? So in the game,
no, your point is not wrong, by the way. But yeah,
I can tell that
I have cover art that I love. Because I take
so
a
what's
deeper
cover
cut.
art
Like,
that what's cover art that you've liked? Like cover art, not the title screen, but that you know.
I really like because what's worse to me. I want to start with that and work it backwards. Because to me, what's worse is usually a blank color with a character. So like Dragon Ball Z Kakarot was one. It was orange with just Goku, and it's like, what is this, man? It's supposed to be a celebration of DBZ, and it's literally just the main character. And Cyberpunk, another example, horrible box art.
What was Cyberpunk? The car in him? Did they choose that one?
It was no. It was just the yellow background with the guy with the gun with his
dude,
head to the side.
No, that's terrible. I've got that. I bought that one to give it away, and even I was like, I got the metal box on purpose because I felt bad to give the patron the friggin' normal box because it was so ugly. So I did pay attention. What other ones?
So when I think of good box art, typically it is a combination of number of things, like either world, characters, or the color palette. I think it's got to like represent that pretty well. Like I don't know if I'm forgetting things, but I don't really think of a harsh yellow when I think of Cyberpunk. But I look at Persona 5 Royals box art, and it's like, okay, we've got the red and black. We've got the whole character cast here. We see the personas. It's like, this is good. The problem is that box art can get very loud and artsy-fartsy, and then you don't know what you're looking at.
Right. Busy. Super busy.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about 4? Because I have Persona 4, and I believe I have the... Was there a platinum version? Because my version's silver.
Yeah, the gold. Yeah, golden.
Okay, so I have one of them. It's not this 5, and I remember liking... I couldn't tell you what it is now, but I bought it off the shelf at... It might be. I bought it off the shelf at GameStop on purpose just because I thought the art... I like the game, too, but because I like that art on it. I think that's the only game I've ever bought where... You know, I knew I liked the game, but the art was cool enough on the box where I got it. What about...
you know, I look at this may be a leap right now, but for something recent that more of the audience may be familiar with is I look at Starfield's retro poster art where like the one character's looking up in the sky.
Of course,
and you have
of course.
Like I look at that and I'm like, that's awesome. I think that's
any
awesome.
of the patriotic, like Russian cosmonaut looking off or Americana patriot looking off. That's why I like Fallout.
I love
the
it.
Patriot. Let me grab this Persona. I just want to see what it looks because I think it's silver. Let me see.
This is crazy. I had no idea Carrick owned a copy of fucking Persona. Ladies and gentlemen, this is monumental. We're gonna absolutely eat Showtime here because I had no idea. I didn't even know this guy fucking owned a physical game, and now he's stumbling around his mansion. More than likely. Probably down the flight of stairs now. I don't know what Carrick's house actually is like. I've never seen his waistline or below. He's a man with an upper body to me. Never shook his hand. Only talked to him through this web camera here, but now he's adventuring.
I got attacked by a puppy while I was out there. Yeah, nope. I guess it's not there. I think my wife sold it.
Wow.
Yeah, because a lot of times I don't mean sold. Sorry, donated. A lot of times we'll go.
Now I can't say it's horrible.
Yeah, each Sunday we look at like any electronic stuff, and I'm like, get rid of that because I'll have like 600 HDMI wires. But I'm pretty sure that's one I liked. What were you saying while I was gone? Was there anything I missed?
Nope, nothing.
Were you just dissing on me while I was gone?
I was just narrating while you were away.
Sure. I feel bad because now I can't even show a single game. I don't have any.
You don't have any at all. I don't have any here.
I don't. Well, sorry.
Actually,
yes, of course. That's what I mean.
I do
Mine
have some here.
Room.
They're in the other room. An example of a pretty loud box art, I think of is like PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale. That's a pretty like
That's pretty loud. What about the? Remember when
oh.
yellow and blue used to be the thing, where it would be offset colors like Battlefield and I think it was Mass Effect Andromeda, and it was like every cover was like a yellow and blue. Or man, I just can't deal with that. I can't deal with that weird. Well, the worst ones though have to be the sports ones from EA, the newer sports ones.
Oh,
that
the
just
fucking Photoshop montages.
Dude,
Jesus Christ,
I can do that.
man.
I can do that on like Microsoft Photo Editor. I mean, that shit is raunch. It's
I
nasty.
sent it to one of my buddies, and he was like, "Dude, you can make that in Photoshop." So it was when the FIFA box art got announced with the guy folding his arms.
Dude.
So my friend sends me, he's like, "Here, do this." Sends me a picture of him standing there, folding his arms, and I fucking remade the box art in literally 5 minutes. I was like, damn, man.
It's ridiculous how bad that. So some companies don't care. Some companies put some time into it, and other companies are EA.
Yeah.
Right?
Really. Last bit of news, number 8. Xbox was not memeing around quite like we were. They're doing it. Announced after the showcase was the Xbox Series X mini fridge. The promise is being kept after Aaron Greenberg of Xbox promised the mini fridges would arrive, provided Xbox beat out Skittles in a Twitter poll of the best of the brands. It'll arrive this holiday, and no price point has been announced. Hey, if anyone from Xbox is listening, typically I don't care if you send me free shit. No one from Xbox has sent me free shit. If you're going to send me one free thing in this show's lifetime,
you want it to
let it be this. I lost my mini fridge. I had a Nuka-Cola mini fridge. Y'all can look it up. It was the sickest thing ever. It broke. I need a new mini fridge, and I want a damn Xbox mini fridge. I will pay. I will do something. But
that sucks. It broke.
It broke. It's so cool, too. It broke. And I'm just going to utilize this platform here to say that at least give me the pre-order link, right? Give me the pre-order link.
Is there any
Look
way
up the audience
to fix the Fallouts? Because that one, to me, would be more like, is there a way to fix it? Or did you already get rid of it?
I tried for a while.
That's a shitter. Because that'd actually be pretty cool. I like their art, Fallout 4.
It was
like
awesome. It's the
stuff.
Red Nuka-Cola one that stored like I think 6 drinks
cool.
or something. It was awesome. I loved it. But this Xbox Series X mini fridge, pretty nice. It's happening.
It's a big black box.
Yeah.
You want me to make you one?
Yeah, that'd be, dude. Yeah, just as long as I get my Xbox mini fridge. I lost my mini fridge. I filled the void in it by putting a stand in the corner of my room, and it's just like a game shelf. So. Yeah, my special corner is now just another part of my job and hobby as it consumes every part of my life. That's all the news, though. Next, we've got Game Pass Pick of the Week / Backwards Compat Pick of the Week. As I stated last time, and I'm just going to state it again for the audience sake, and then we're going to continue on. One of the bits of feedback we got about our show was the pounding away, the overdoing of Game Pass and Back Compat, where we both each have a game for this, and we'd be giving you 4 games a week, and people were like, we're not even playing them. We want to be more quality and less quantity. So we've trimmed the fat, and we're going to kind of like alternate and just pick kind of what works. And what I want to do is kind of ease into it and start doing just one Game Pass, one Back Compat. But what we're doing right here is technically both with Dishonored Death of the Outsider, which is our Game Pass Pick of the Week. And we're going to do once that we can make a suggestion to the audience each week that hopefully we can hear back on if people give this one a try. This one was my personal pick that I threw into the list here. The reason I chose this is I was reading a lot of the write-ins, and one thing I noticed that was pretty common, it's actually one of our conclusion questions, so I don't want to spoil it too much, but it was about how Xbox's focus on the ID at Xbox program and its indies was really nice to see on top of the big games, because some people don't have a lot of time to play these very long experiences, which totally makes sense. What's great about Dishonored Death of the Outsider is this was a $20 or $30 game when it released. It was a very tight experience. It's about 6 hours long. When it comes to the story, it is the best in the Dishonored franchise. I think you said I thought it was my favorite at the start of this. 2 and 1 I go back and forth on. I think 1 is my favorite from Dishonored. But Dishonored Death of the Outsider, from a story perspective, is really good if you care about what's happened so far. If you don't, what you have is a 6-hour, very dynamic, creative game here. Great level design, as I've said before, with Arcane. But what's I think most noteworthy is it's not fluffed. So one of the things I do love about Arcane games is you'll kill someone and you'll get like the bad karma, and if you keep causing chaos, you'll get the chaotic ending. And so there's multiple endings and multiple play styles. This one does away with that. So I used to have this very tense feeling when I was playing Dishonored, and since this was a tighter, smaller package, I didn't mind that they tried something new here. And while I wouldn't want it to be the future of the franchise, I think it worked out well enough where it was nice to just go, hey, I'm going to stab everyone and use these traps that are tripwires that cut them into bits, and I can do that and not worry about the ending I got. So I just wanted to recommend this as a download. And Carrick, I remember, I don't know if you said, have you played it? Because I remember when we first talked to you,
just
had said
little bits of it. Yeah, I hadn't. Just a little bits of it once because you did a review of it, or impressions, one of the two. But I watched that, and then you talked about it a lot in the video. So it's one of the few I've bought and like actually installed, played a little bit, liked what I played more than 1 and 2. 1, I wasn't a huge fan of. 2 had a ton of technical issues when it released. It was just all kinds of problems. I've been so unlucky with this series. However, that game I was not unlucky with. And what I played, I actually liked, and I'm pretty sure it was just one of those things where I was in the middle of reviews. So it'll be one that I will actually return to. One of the very few that I know I'll return to and try out.
It's so short that you can, and that's what
it's only 6 or 8.
So appealing. 6 hours, man. I did everything, and it took me 6 hours in a review cycle. I remember when they got it to me, I remember thinking to myself, well, doesn't look like I'll have the time to finish this. They gave it to me, I think, like a day and a half early, and I beat it that night. And I went, wow, that was nice. You know, that was a really good experience, and time flew by, and that's when when you just lose that track of time. But just, fantastic game. The story side of things, I want to just emphasize, will be more beneficial if you're familiar with Dishonored. But if this is one you skipped out on, it was just added to Game Pass during the E3 showcase. I did beat the Arcane drum pretty heavily when we ranked the Bethesda studios, and I beat them even more when we talked about how that you must download Prey and try Dishonored out. But Death of the Outsiders, probably the most accessible. I'm going to download this, try this out, see if I like it.
That's cool.
Type of approach you can take. So with that, we move into our 5 final questions of this episode. Cameron Belgrade is up first. Howdy, gents. How do you all think is the state of Wolfenstein 3? Pete Hines did confirm the game was happening a few years ago, but perhaps things have changed since the acquisition. I feel like if it was to come out, we would have seen it this year. However, since it wasn't at E3, I'm going to assume that it ain't happening. Do y'all think its absence from the showcase confirms that the game was canceled for the Indiana Jones game? Could it be moved to another studio? Are we to be damned with Youngblood forever? I hope you both have a Xbox One's reveal event type of day. I remember I was at college for the Xbox One reveal event. I was like signing up for it, and I was watching it on my phone, and I was like, this is so fucking bad. Like, I'm so happy I'm not home planted in my seat for this. As for Wolfenstein 3, I thought this would show up. It didn't at all. I don't know where this game is. Do you have any insight or thoughts on where you think after Youngblood that things have gone for this series?
Nope. I have no data. I actually thought that I mean, I was a little confused on if they'd show it, because I think this was the one where I liked Youngblood somewhat, and I think everybody else hated it.
You would be correct.
Yeah. So
well, Youngblood, did you play post-patch? Because I heard once it's fixed, it's just kind of a pretty story, but that's about.
Well, I mean, with co-op, which is how I played it. You know, like it was one of those games. You know, you could lie and say any game's good with co-op. Well, it is certainly not a lie if you say any game could be more enjoyable with co-op. You know, because you can tease it. I had a pretty okay time with it. I mean, I wasn't in love with it, but I didn't have near the issues technically that other people had. But I didn't know where they were going to go with it, so I haven't heard any words on this at all. Wolfenstein is just one of those titles where I'll play every one of them, but I've never ever been invested at all in that series. Like, I don't know their stories.
It's one of those strange marks.
Yeah, and they pop up, and I enjoy them. There's been ones that I've loved, but it's normally just a dude killing, like, Nazis and zombies, and I'm pretty okay with that. Like, that's the level of buy-in I have. And using special weapons to do it. Like that, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, for me, I loved New Colossus and its story. I remember being very captured by that one, but I feel like the reason it hasn't caught on in this widespread way is because you haven't seen quite like that level of New Order quality since that game. That longevity where I remember it had that Evil Within kind of effect where when I played it, I went, oh my God, there's more. Wow, there's more. It was the good type of there's more. It was a 15-hour game or something for me. I remember when I played it. It was difficult. I loved how it handled acquiring perks. It was just finely tuned. I really liked that game. And then with New Colossus, there was the problem of how many cutscenes there were versus gameplay. It wasn't according to a lot of reviews online, I didn't have this issue. I thought it was difficult, but for some, it was way too easy. It wasn't balanced quite right. And then Wolfenstein Youngblood rolls around, and I think hurts the series more. So I feel like it's sort of been on this downward trajectory over time, not maybe as aggressive as like a Fallout with 76, but enough where I think interest has waned and perhaps they have just, let's take our time and figure this one out. I imagine it is still coming. It's just really a matter of when. But them announcing the Indiana Jones game in the middle of that and not Wolfenstein 3, which I guess you could say technically is announced, bit of a head scratcher. But Lucasfilm likes to announce things early. That much I know. So that could also be a factor. Like, hey, this is a done deal. Let people know. But in answer to your question, Cameron, further, could it be moved to another studio? I don't think so. And are we damned with Youngblood forever? No, I think it will happen. Just might be a little bit longer than we thought. And personally, me, I was pretty big. I didn't have any sources, but I was pretty big on the idea of it happening sometime. Like, I thought it was going to be an early 2021 title. Maybe it still is. Maybe it's a Quakecon reveal. That'd be kind of weird. But perhaps it is. All right. Andy's our second question to wrap up the show. Hey, fellas, do you see Microsoft having Battlefield 2042 as a day one Game Pass game? Seems like a no-brainer and a good deal for both sides. I love Battlefield, but the thought of paying $70 to play multiplayer only when I can play Halo and Call of Duty for free seems absurd. Where do you, I know we had a free-to-play discussion on Halo. We sifted through that. But does Battlefield make sense as a Game Pass game with Halo being this multiplayer mode you can download and Battlefield's price driving folks to the more accessible option? I feel like if I'm Microsoft, they're not afraid to double up. We've seen that already. But I also think, hey, let Battlefield be the option you pay for, because more people may say, I'm going to go there instead. If Halo's good, which you would have to have internal trust it will be. You don't want to compete with yourself. Kind of want Halo to be its own thing. So what do you think of Battlefield to Game Pass? And does this impact anything, or am I being dramatic?
No, I think we would have seen it probably, though, right?
That's what I felt. I thought the timing would have been E3, where they said 27 games and Battlefield, Diablo, and something else were the two out of the three that were not Game Pass. So it seemed pretty stand out when it wasn't.
Yeah, it would have been I wouldn't have considered it a knockout punch, but everybody's belief and choices are different. I don't think there is really a knockout punch, but I think that for some people would have been considered that. If they were also getting that game on Game Pass, I think a lot of people would have been like, whoa, what the fuck? But for me, I don't know if there's a huge overlap. I like Halo and I like Battlefield, but I don't think of one or the other. I think of both. So I don't know how many people are probably saying, I'm just going to play Halo because that's my... I mean, they play spectacularly different. So they have different themes and different feelings. So I think Microsoft would double up without an issue. I just don't... I mean, I would assume if it was going to happen, we would have had the announcement already.
Yeah. I would just personally say, like, if you could pocket that $70, say, Halo's my multiplayer game, download that, and then go buy something else that fall... That's probably an appealing option for people. So if I'm them, I kind of keep Battlefield. And when I say keep, I mean I think like Microsoft is in the driver's seat for it. But if they have the choice to keep it off the service, I know this may sound kind of counterintuitive. Like, oh, don't you want more for the consumer? I do. I would love for them to have both. But if I'm them, if I'm Xbox, drive everyone to Halo, and that may mean not adding a new shooter to Game Pass day one. Which, as Carrick said, I don't think I think they would have done it at E3 if they had it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I mean, it would be weird to do it after. I mean, it could be where they didn't have the deal done. Of course, obviously.
Yeah.
Outriders was pretty. I know Outriders, like the deals behind the things it was more than a month or two of discussion, but I don't remember that being announced very far prior to the game. Like there were rumors of it, but it was only, and it felt like even a couple weeks is giving it a lot of weeks. Like for some reason, I feel like it was at most 2. I could be wrong on that, but it felt really quick. Like it was, and it could be because they had a demo and just so many things were going on with that game. But it also depends on where EA stands on it. I think EA's pretty bullish on this one, even with the multiplayer only. So if EA feels they can get your full money and doesn't want to connect with Game Pass,
that relationship is there with EA Play, so it's possible.
It has been for forever, dude. They've been the longest platform partner.
It's possible, but I just feel if they're going to do it, maybe it's closer because you still have EA Play in July, and maybe they do it then.
When's Battlefield come out?
October 12th.
Shit, that's a long time. It could also be where, dude, it could also be if you do see it get announced, then are you going to see Halo single player or multiplayer be delayed because of the holiday thing? So keep that in mind. If Microsoft does end up running into some weird issues, it might be a higher or lower chance of them trying to,
That's a good point.
You see what I'm saying?
You delay the free-to-play multiplayer because we don't have that confirmed date, and you get Game Pass Battlefield.
Yeah, I mean, that could be pretty gnarly to be like, oh, our holiday is the Halo campaign and multiplayer Battlefield on Game Pass. That's pretty insane. And then, or maybe that's early. Maybe that's your October or November or whatever. And then in December or whatever, they finally get their multiplayer. Like that's a pretty gnarly hit. I wonder how they do sales though during Christmas. They probably would reverse that and want you to sell the game during Thanksgiving, Christmas versus have the single player game early. See,
does Game Pass sell enough to overrule the kind of holiday burst?
Holiday, yeah. I mean, who knows how that goes because holidays, you won't even be able to get an Xbox X. So that's another thing. Like, people who want it doesn't. Right now, we're at a point where I think Microsoft's smarter to get the streaming working as quick as possible. Dude, imagine a cool commercial. Like, let's go into PR mode just for a second before we end this, because that's the last question, right?
No, we still got 3 more.
Oh, I thought you said that was the last question. Okay.
I said as we wrap it up. I will choose my words wiser.
No worries. Listen to this. The coolest PR ever, though, would be like a kid playing his Xbox Series X. I don't know how this would work, but he's playing Halo, right? And you're seeing over his shoulder and he's playing Halo. And it's like, you can play Halo on your Xbox Series X, but if it's not in stores and then it zooms in and it shows another guy in front of his TV, right? No system, launching it on an app, and then it zooms into that TV and it's another guy playing on his tablet, and then it zooms into that, it's a guy playing on his cell phone, zooms into that, it's on a Switch. I'm just joking. Ignore the Switch one. But imagine, like, and you can play Halo regardless of your console. Microsoft may, if the Halo thing comes out and if COVID continues to be an issue, maybe Microsoft goes for the Fire Stick thing, like we've talked about, more quickly. That's another thing, like because that doesn't require the AMD full chip. That's a completely different situation. That's just getting something that can take streaming HDMI and, put it all together. So it's going to be a fun holiday for them to see where they put everything and when they do it.
I agree. And their fridge.
Fridge will come with a free streaming. Fridge needs a TV.
Imagine that fridge comes with like the Xbox dongle to plug into
your TV.
I would
not be surprised if it.
I wouldn't either, man. That'd be awesome.
I would not be surprised if they were like, oh yeah, the reason why we delayed is 27-inch screen on the front door, and you're able to stream your. That's the dumbest thing in the world, but
that would make for a great video. I should write that down. I should challenge my tech side and try to find out how to plug a screen into the Series X fridge and play Game Pass off of that through streaming. That'd be incredible.
It absolutely can happen. By the way, I don't know if you know this, but there's multiple HDMI TV panels you can get that you can just stick to anything. Anything. They just have an HDMI in. And you could get, I mean, there's millions of ways that you can do. By the way, you can currently stream any console right now with HDMI streamers as well. So the HDMI stick that they're selling isn't really new. You can buy generic ones for super cheap right now that will allow you to stream into your consoles wirelessly. They're just not perfect, right? And some are good. I have one that we use streaming, that's fine. But you could set it up today, like if you went to Best Buy, because I'm sure they have an HDMI wireless streamer at Best Buy. You could do a commercial for it. Be like, the Xbox, my version of the Xbox. But then now you need a fridge.
Thinking of me like taking a saw to this fucking Xbox and trying to hack it up, like put a hole
you don't need
where
to
the
do
screen
any
would
of
be.
that. You could.
And just embed it in the system or in the
or
fridge itself.
The two-sided, like I have 3M two-sided tape, the molecular bonded shit. That'll hold like human bodies against a wall. I'm not saying I've done human bodies. I'm just saying it'll hold that much weight.
Wow.
You could easily just grab the Xbox, put that shit on the bottom and go gunk and put it on, and it would. My God, my hands are dirty from chopping wood. Look at that. So nasty. But you could easily like stick a console on the side. That would be amazing. It would be so terrible looking, but it would be very fun to see.
Sean Mason writes in, "Hey men," interesting choice of words there. "Hey men, I don't understand how Bethesda can commit to a release date for Starfield. We have barely seen anything, yet they are confident on an exact release. At this point, I don't think anybody working on the game can honestly say the game will be ready by November 11th, 2022. Why wouldn't they just say it's coming in the future? Now, if they have to move the date, it'll be seen as a disappointment. Hell, even Halo doesn't have an official release date. That's, quote, coming out this year, end quote. I just think Bethesda's setting themselves up for scrutiny from their fans if it is delayed. Best, Sean M." I thought this was fascinating to watch. It was this moment of something that would only occur in gaming. We will give a date for the thing in November of 2022, but we will not put a date on the thing that may be coming out in November of 2021. I just thought that was incredible to see, even live. Once again, I have my reactions archived on my channel if anyone's ever curious, but I was like, what? There's no fucking date. I was more blown away by Halo not getting a date than Starfield getting one. But for you, what do you think the rationale was for saying, let's put a day and date on this? Like, what does that accomplish that maybe we're missing, if anything?
I feel like we've talked this so to death, dude. So why do we feel that Starfield got a date?
Yes.
Is that what they're asking?
Yeah, like so early, not a window. Like Redfall got a window. This got a date.
Do you know what? I want Starfield to be released so much so I don't ever have to hear the name again. I'm so done with Starfield. I don't know. I mean, I get it, but I just don't know. Like, why would Starfield have got a date so far away? I feel like we've already stated this, but if we haven't, I'm almost sure we did in the last one, but if we haven't, it would be because you had heard, not only you, multiple insiders had heard that Starfield had been like somewhat done or was in polishing. So there is the possibility that they know that they'll be feature complete in summer and that they're just going to be polishing up. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, Starfield is so outgrown its discussion for me that I don't even know where it is anymore. Like, because I don't know. I'm not saying you guys are even wrong, or not you guys, but remember when everybody was like, that it's in polish? Because that was the rumor. Was that it was in polish. So what if that's true? What if? I mean, it's just,
I don't think it's true, but
I don't know if it's true. It's just there's so many rumors now that there's nothing to track. The date could also be because of holiday, maybe because maybe they know it'll be done in like June or July, and then I guess in holidays are ready to do it.
They started the Telegraph article I was reading stated that Starfield started development. I had said it was right after Fallout 4's DLC, which is still pretty accurate, but this article more deliberately stated 2017 was when it began, like early 2017. And that would put Starfield around the 4-year mark in development now. Of course, we have COVID pushing things around, so there is that there. It's why I always say I thought that this was going to be I thought it would be a 2021 game if there wasn't a pandemic. I think it had a pretty good chance of doing that. So I think maybe that's why they're confident in hitting it. Things are getting back to normal. They know what they have to do. They kind of figured their way around it. They were probably making good progress as the pandemic hit. And I think now they know, okay, we can hit this date. And they probably have given themselves a ton of breathing room. I think, I'm just guessing, by the way, there could have even been the chance they could say, well, we'll get this out in the summer. But Bethesda Game Studios is so big, they got to be in the holiday, it seems. Like, I don't remember the last time. I do remember the last time they didn't. They did a non-holiday release, and it was in 2006.
What was it?
So, yeah, that was Oblivion.
What was it? Oh, it was Oblivion?
Yeah.
Dude, I wish they had shown gameplay now. Something new to talk about. Like, I wish they'd shown
I mean, there was
gameplay,
new stuff to talk about. If you look at my channel, I mean, it's pretty fucking gross.
Well, there's new stuff for you to talk about, but
generally
I want
speaking,
gameplay, man. I mean, like, dude, I mean, we're talking now. We're like trying to decode dates and seasons, and it's like the more this comes up, the more I'm like, guys, I wish you had shown gameplay. I just want to see some so that we can talk and we can look at that stuff. It would be so nice because now without seeing it, we don't even know where it is. You know, if we had seen it, we could have also been like, okay, this is why December. Maybe, you know, or could be early because this is what we've seen. But there's nothing. There's nothing. It's just, it's frustrating, man. I think I came out of this E3. That was probably the most frustrating thing. I came out of E3 and it didn't really hit me until a couple hours afterwards. And we talked about it a little bit in the, whatever, I don't know what you called that one. The DD Xbox, what did we call that?
Which one? Sorry.
What did we call that video that we did? The DD Xbox event when you and I just covered the games.
That was episode 20. Sorry, I don't even think I specified it in the show now that I think about it. But it was just episode 23.
Episode.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it was might even been after that, but it's like when you get out of these and they do just have CGI, Redfall is the other one where this pops up, where when you just get CGI, it is so difficult to talk about because anything you say can be used against you in a court. Like, you can't, it's so hard. It's so, it could be like, well, I don't like the character design.
Take him to jail.
I don't like the character design. Somebody would be like, well, but it's CGI. And you'd be like, yeah, but you asked us about CGI. So it's like, how do you, or not you asked us, I'm sorry, but you showed us CGI. So that's what we have to talk about. We don't have any gameplay. And then you have Pete saying he's seen gameplay. It's like, I wish we could see it so we could talk about it. Because
it's a pretty similar beat we've seen before of the show the CGI, talk about the thing,
EA
get curiosity
with Battlefield.
See the gameplay.
Remember the CGI for Battlefield like 5 days prior to E3 or whatever?
They did this. Stupid, yeah.
Dude, it was so stupid. And people don't get how frustrating it can be when they're not representative. They're not. And it's just, you sit there going like, I don't know what's happening. And what this has to do with anything, and they see gameplay, which is weird too, because, dude, I'm telling you, Battlefield's gameplay looked better than the CGI. And what I mean by that is, so that people don't freak, I don't mean better, like, technically. What I mean is, it was more impactful and better because it was what it was, at least. You know, you got to see it, and it looked good. And so it was like, why? Why did you ever do the CGI in the first place?
It feels like a waste of money at a certain point. I understand with new stuff, selling a concept, getting a familiarity of this new world, this new universe. I 500% understand that. But with something like Battlefield, and the way they did it, it seemed very just slapped together because they were like, we're doing a cinematic trailer, we're doing this, what's it called, this gameplay thing. Certain people were allowed to look at the trailers behind closed doors, which, once again, weird, really weird. I declined because I'm just like, I'm not going to do that type of stuff, man. But it seemed unnecessary. Like, they were so close to showing gameplay. Why not just show gameplay when you reveal it?
Yeah, I mean, it makes you wonder, like, maybe there was money paid to be on the Summerfest, right? Maybe there was money paid to be on that.
How it works, really.
Yeah, and that's why it was there, because that was questionable at best, where you're like, dude, seriously, your timing is all off. The timing on all this is off. Maybe it's COVID, probably. This has been the most frustrating E3, that's for sure.
Yeah, because that's one thing that, keeping with DICE, like Battlefront made sense. It's like, hey, Star Wars Day, or Star Wars Celebration, we're going to show the CGI for the in-engine footage for the new Battlefront game. And then come E3, you get your gameplay. So there's a gap there, but to have the CGI and then 4 days later go, here's gameplay. It's like, why does the CGI exist? Just make us wait 4 more days and show us the gameplay at E3. Unless they needed their window to get people talking and then gauge interest. It could be that. I'm certainly not a marketer, but just from the outside looking in, I don't think it would have hurt them to just say, hey, let's just do gameplay and launch it in the Xbox show.
Especially, like I said, because it looked good.
Looked really good.
I think I was more impressed with that than the CGI in some other games, because at least I could come away from it with an idea of what was going on.
Alejandro Blanco writes in, hello, Dukes. I hope you're doing well. Thank you. We hope you're doing well as well.
What's up, Alejandro?
While I loved what was presented in the Xbox presser, I couldn't help but notice that aside from Starfield and The Outer Worlds 2, most of the announcements from Xbox Studios were focused on co-op games, Contraband, Redfall, etc. My question is it is more likely for these Xbox studios to lean into more multiplayer games now that they have an almost guaranteed player base? When I heard the rumor of Omen by Arcane, I thought of a more vampire Dishonored than we may end up getting. Don't get me wrong, I have a group of friends, all with Game Pass, that we could get together to enjoy these experiences. But I can't help but notice that most of the single-player value I've gotten from Game Pass is from third-party devs, like the Yakuza series, Dragon Quest 11, etc. P.S. This may sound ungrateful, but do want to note that I have loved and squeezed as much value out of single-player games that I have on Game Pass, and I'm currently downloading 4 excellent games that were added to the service on Sunday, Like a Dragon, Death of the Outsider, Evil Within 2, and Fallout 3. Yeah.
That's a pretty insane, that's a pretty awesome list.
Yeah, I agree entirely. The real takeaway here is something that, this is the tough part about setting up questions, is sometimes we hit things earlier and you don't want to stop that conversation. But what I saw here was the potential of, once again, Game Pass influencing the design of games. Not in the way where Contraband was made and they went, hey, let's do this and put it on Game Pass. But more the idea of, let's chase this idea because we have Game Pass. Do you see the difference I'm suggesting there? Is knowing it's there rather than basing its design around it, where it's like, well, let's put this monetization here. It's more so saying, well, let's just make this multiplayer game because we do have Game Pass. It lets them take chances, but some people are starting to struggle, I think, with the chances that are being taken, which is you're going to see probably more co-op games. For me, I rejoice a little bit at this. I feel like we've had such a drought with co-op games, especially true 4-player co-op. We went through this weird stretch where a lot of games were going, play with 3 people, like Rainbow Six Extraction. You take a 3-man team. It's like, what? Who the fuck?
God, yeah.
You know, like, why, man? It's either 2 or 4. Keep the number even. Odd man out, literally. But what do you, if anything, and I totally understand if you have nothing to add here, but do you see a trend developing subtly? I don't think it's as extreme as Alejandro is suggesting with the wording was that aside from Starfield and the Outer Worlds, most of the new announcements from Xbox Studios were focused on co-op games. Oh, I'm sorry. That is correct wording because it's Xbox Studios. Please continue.
Yeah, no, I see where he's coming from. I definitely noticed. I mean, this was a couple years ago, but you would get the thing where, and this is what I argued about Battlefield. I still want a single player in Battlefield. Because I feel that a lot of people look at multiplayer or co-op and think less than something else is taking up the AI. It's another person. You know, which is not always true, by the way. It's just your thought process. Because he's talking even about it like it's a bad thing or a down thing. Co-op doesn't also mean you can't do single player, as we saw with Redfall, right?
Yes.
Redwall, by the way, so that anybody knows, because I'm sure somebody's going to get mad. People get mad about everything. Redwall is a book that I've read. It's one of my favorite books. So, I would say, yeah, I get where he's coming from, but I don't know if it's more. I just think that they're not doing, they're not regurgitating the same dog vomit that Sony does with the third person open worlds. You know,
Yeah,
Sony
that's the
just
thing. I
digs
feel
that.
like
And they do
there's-
good, by the way. I just mean
Yeah.
the genre they regurgitate, not bad games. They do great games.
Exactly, but there is a point where it's one thing I said in my grading Xbox and Bethesda showcase video was when it comes to I'm losing my train of thought because I dared to look at another window in the middle of me speaking.
When
here.
it comes, we're talking about co-op replacing single player.
Yeah, this is the 4 hours of sleep speaking at this point. I don't even remember what the hell I was going to say.
Well, long story short, I think he's seen less of it actually becoming an issue than actually just. And there's multiple companies doing it. I think Sony or Microsoft, you know, that also might be a little Game Pass rubbing in there. You know, where Game Pass is causing people to look at, you know, making things co-op so that you can always be online. I'm not going to say who. I will not say who. Their game just got released on consoles here recently. They were a PC developer. And not huge. I'll just say that. And I was celebrating for them. I was like, dude, this is awesome. I was DMing. And I said, it started getting into Game Pass, and they're not on there. And it was starting to get into Game Pass, blah, blah, blah. And he was saying that, like, one of the things that is a little nerve-wracking about going to PC versus console versus online console versus not online console, you know, online checks and all that kind of stuff, like you check in if somebody's online, is that right now you'll have people telling you that every single pirated copy of a game, like on the PC, every single pirated copy of a game was going to be bought, which is not true. But then you also have people saying that you shouldn't, every single game that's on the PC that is pirated wouldn't have been bought, or, you know, so you have this thing where there's a nuance there. There's a nuance of piracy and the worry and getting things online only. And I think Microsoft is always looking in the past. The 360 and the Xbox were hacked, and when they were, it's devastating. The number of and I think that the online requirement is, I'm not saying it's right before people throw a fit. What I'm saying is that I think devs get so stressed about it sometimes that they're like, how do we keep them online? Even if there's no monetization. And the reason why I bring that part up is we have seen games like that where people be like, there's no monetization, but there's an online check. Why is that? I'll tell you why it is. Because deep down inside, they don't want the fucking PlayStation 4's issue right now. I don't know if you know that, but the PlayStation 4, one of the old firmwares was hacked. And while they've fixed
I didn't know this.
while they've fixed the new firmware, if you have the old one, you can those games are still being released. You can still do it on that one. And Switch had some kind of piracy issue as well, where they've released a different motherboard version just to get away from the hardware hack that was available on the Switch. So I'm not excusing them. I'm just saying that these co-op games, sometimes I think that pays off a little bit too. We're like, how can we sell it? Well, let's have a networked, you know, co-op. That's why couch co-op isn't always in these games, because a lot of people would be like, well, if it allows me co-op, why is it not couch co-op? And sometimes I'm like, I think the reason why it's not couch co-op is because that's not really as important as making you always be there. And, you know, which I think you even pointed out in a question, that the Xbox One has issues if you unplug from the internet.
Yes.
With some of its games. So,
yeah,
I think it's all sort of intertwined. It's all business.
Indeed. John Kerry is our final question for the show. What's up, Duke Dudes? E3's Xbox Showcase is come and gone, and I'm sure a lot will be made about the big hitters from Starfield, Halo, Outer Worlds, Redfall, and Contraband. But can we show some love for some of the smaller titles coming to Game Pass?
Yes.
Replaced Somerville, Party Animals, and Plague Tale are all coming to Game Pass day one. As a guy who has limited time, I'm excited to dive into these smaller titles in Game Pass right at launch. While I'm excited to see some more of the big titles, I'm more excited to get regular drops of this smaller quality content. I think it's a less talked about part for the show, at least in my circles, and I think it deserves some more hype. Hype it up, boys. John, absolutely. I agree. Replaced for me out of that bunch and Plague Tale, I go back and forth. Plague Tale probably wins it out because I know what to expect, but Replaced is... Whoopsies. Sorry, I didn't mean to hit that if that came across the mic, but Replaced is just awesome looking. Its art style is so appealing to me. I love that.
And there's Ascent as well.
Oh,
there's
dude,
Replaced.
Yeah.
There's Ascent.
Sung the praises of Ascent.
Yeah. Anything we can do to get away from the big titles, I'm all for. I'm so done with those. So if anybody wants to talk about like Replaced, at least with Replaced, I know what the fucking thing looks like, and I was impressed with some stuff. Ascent's going to be out here really soon, I think. Ascent,
July,
and that looks, yeah. And then, well, okay, this isn't I was gonna mention a non-exclusive title. I won't. But yeah, you have these smaller ones. There's also the 12 minutes, which isn't necessarily for me. We did talk about that in the, I guess, the podcast prior to this one. There was, let's see, what else? There was Somethingville.
Somerville.
Yeah, one of them looked a little slow. I think that was the one that at times
There's a lot
looked
of just walking.
right, like 2D Alan Wake without the bad guys. And you were just like, what's
actually, yeah, that's actually it's super well put. Yeah,
yeah.
It's literally 2D Alan Wake.
Yeah, but I dude, there's so much stuff, and Psychonauts is another one that we brought it up. I hadn't really looked at it, and then looked at it last night. And I was like, oh yeah, this actually looks really cool.
I agree.
So I think in Plague Tale, that's not the only one. I don't know if you saw, Matty, but fucking, this is not exclusive, but I don't care. We have to talk about it, which is
sure.
WW3, Zombie, the news, War Zombie. What's the one that we liked?
Yeah,
what's it
new
called?
World War Z.
World War Z. Yeah, I was right. Okay, I don't know why that didn't sound right, but World War Z has a new whatever. I saw that it includes the old stuff, so I guess we'll call it like the second season or something. I don't know how it includes the original game.
Complete edition with new content, almost.
New levels, new bad guys, new good guys, new locations, completely new storyline. Dude, I was excited. I saw that announced, and I was and then Elix.
Oh, I saw it.
Yes,
Elix 2.
Yeah, woohoo!
Thought of you right away.
Elix 2. Out of the blue, the Eurojank returns. Eurojank is like, we're back, baby. I mean, dude, Elix may not even boot, and I'll probably still give that game a buy. Because it's jetpacks. They even said, explore the world. I think they listened to me, because the jetpack is not given to you right away in the original. And I was like, dude, it's pretty close, but I was like, this game just needs jetpacks all the time. And that's what it sounds like that game will be. Admittedly, it's not exclusive either, but
who cares though? It's an exciting game. I felt that way about Steel Rising. I think Steel Rising looks super interesting. That's the next title from Spiders, the Redfall developers, and that was one of the first titles we heard was like next gen only from what it looks like, and that was really nice to see, because I thought they really swung big with Redfall, and now to know they're going to commit and try to do something with Steel Rising that's next gen only. Went okay. Jank and tech stuff has been always their struggle, so if they can get ahead of the curve and do something like this, go for it.
It will be weird to see if they ever do, or if they do, and then you're like, this is not as... I would never say bugs make a game better. I'm not that kind of person. I think that's a BS way of saying it, but I do think that it can be funny sometimes for us to discuss it. And I'm hoping... I don't want the discussion to go away, because Spider, or what was it, Greedfall, was awesome, and then you'd have that weird shit where like that one guy would repeat the same one-liner through the entire game. One of the dudes in your team would say like,
just constantly.
Yeah, that guy, but there was also like, let's put a little fire on it or something. It was something about like fire or whatever.
Vasco,
it was like,
I think his name was, or something.
Yeah. It was like Dragon's Dogma, where they're like, wolves are afraid of fire, and you're like, oh my God, shut up. Please never say that again.
Yeah,
they actually allowed you to turn off pawns because people were so bothered by that. Yeah. I'm excited for those games. I mean, it's funny, Focus Home's still probably up there still as like the guys I'm more excited about than anybody. Focus Home and like Piranha Bytes.
They do good work.
Yep. Very excited for them.
Agreed. And it's good Xbox is investing in them.
What's the shaded, cell-shaded one before we go? What's it that everybody's talking about where you're on the motorbike? It's desert. It looks like a post-apocalyptic...
Sable?
Sable. That's the other one. That's another one.
September.
I don't know when it's coming out. This year?
Yeah, it's in the coming soon. Let me double check. Sable. Release date.
That's exciting to me. Sable actually looks like that game looks like there was an old cartoon.
Planned release date September 23rd, 2021.
Called Wizards. Okay, so yeah, all right. So Sable's another one that I'm very interested in. So,
I'm also seeing now it has a demo on Steam if anyone wants to try it out. And it's published by Raw Fury. Shout out to
David Martinez.
Yes, David.
He's the one I deal with all the time. I thought David came on with us too. Or was I wrong?
He has come on Ham Radio. Yep.
Yeah, David's awesome. Yeah, anyway, so there's a lot I would love to, as you can tell, I perked up. I would love to talk about the smaller stuff.
Meanwhile, I just went like this in this last 20 minutes. I'm like, so tired.
Hey,
I'm actually... I got to edit a video.
I thought you meant because you didn't want to talk about.
No,
it's because you're actually tired.
I don't. I'm not complaining. I hope the audience understands. I don't have to edit this. I have to finish editing my other video. But I hope the audience understands. This is the first time in 23 episodes I lost my train of thought so bad I forgot what the fuck I was saying. So I hope they understand. I'm
Dude,
that
it can
exhausted.
happen too. Like multiple podcasts about the same stuff in a small period of time. It can be I'll do that thing where we'll be talking and I'll be like, did I say that in this podcast?
Yeah,
or the one that was
Ham
3
Radio.
days ago?
We're coming in hot after.
Oh, well,
for me,
Ham
like
Radio
4
too.
shows.
But for me, it's actually it's actually just the event. It's the E3.
Mm-hmm.
It's just because they've never done
doing a lot.
Yeah, and we've never done a. Well, not only that, but even on Twitter, you're talking about it. And then maybe on Discord, I'm talking to you, or on Twitter. And you'll get that thing where, I don't know if you've ever got it. Have you ever recorded a video and then said, okay, I'm going to redo this? And you do it. You'll get like 10 minutes in, you're like, did I say that during this video? Because I do freeform a little bit more. But there'll be times where I'll be all, and I don't know. And then I'll be all, wait, did I already say this? And I'm going to have to go back and put a cut in this. And that can happen, especially with E3 and with Game Awards. It also happens because the stream, that's what I was going to say. So we streamed it, then we did podcasts, then we did another podcast, and now another podcast. Well, some people did multiple podcasts, but that's how many times we've done E3 stuff.
Dude. Yeah,
it's crazy.
I'm looking back on this week, I worked 14 hours the day that we did the Xbox E3 showcase because I streamed it, 2 videos, set up this trailer analysis. Then the next day it was like another 8 hours, and it's just been like, boom. What's interesting is I would argue almost, I don't want to say it wasn't worth it, but like I didn't have this huge pop with it either. Like I definitely am going to start reorienting how I work because I've put a lot of life into it, and it's like, all right, when I don't see the major bangs, like you know, that's usually when at least E3 you anticipate it, and it's like, all right, it's a problem with me at a certain point where it's like,
are you sure? Because dude, I mean, everybody I've talked to has stated that it's because there's so many overarching events and people talking about things and companies doing these. I don't know if you saw this, but there was people going like, who's doing a show today? What? So I'm wondering if it made
you go along.
Yeah, I'm wondering. I mean, I get where you're coming from. I don't want to deball. You know, if you put work in, you don't see a pop. You're looking at it going, is that me? Is that them? Is it timing? Should I try it again? But I'm thinking one thing to add, which you probably, I'm sure, know, but is that just there's a lot of chaff. And one thing I found out is I can't beat IGN for the life of me. Oh, I got to get this out. I don't know if you saw this, so I know you're tired, so I'll let you go. But this was crazy.
You're good, man. No rush.
I did a video, and it was just crushing it. It was trending, #1 review video. I come back less than an hour or two later. It's #2 after IGN. And then like 2 or 3 hours later, it's #5 after IGN because IGN had 4 fucking videos on the same thing. One of them a month old, and then 3 of them that day. So like they'll be all, here's the first 15 minutes of, here's the review. And this is not a bitch. That's people. But what I also noticed is there's this weird block of videos now that shows at the top almost like they're sponsored. So I saw GameSpot on there, and I was like, well, wait a minute. GameSpot's got like 4,000 views after 2 days. I've got like 150,000 with a higher thumbs up and a higher everything, but I'm below them. And I'm like, is there something going on now with Google, and that Google treats like non-website entities, a different way? So I was just saying, with all this stuff, be aware that all that shit can happen too. That it can look like you're not getting a bump and maybe nobody is. There's been a couple where I've reviewed and been like, this is going to be big because it's a Sony exclusive or whatever, and then go and look, nobody's doing views. And I'm just like, wait, what? Like, IGN's got 100,000, I've got 70, and I'm like, why are people not,
Yeah.
So maybe with this E3, maybe people just got the data they needed from streams. Also, if they watch you stream, Matty, you may be cannibalizing just
That's
a tiny bit.
Yeah. I'm not. I don't want to just. For
I know you're
the
not.
Sake of the
I'm
audience,
just giving you a heads up that you might be. Yeah.
Yeah, it's possible. I did a lot of shit, so it also is just saturation. It's just I take an honest, hard look at things fairly often. I'm happy with the performance. I'm not complaining, by the way. 50K views a video is definitely nothing to scoff at. Just you typically around the hot times are like, oh, this is going to pop off, right? And it didn't. I'm like, okay, it did good. It just didn't do crazy good, which,
yeah,
that's on me at that point. All right. This has been a great episode, getting to just talk about all different games that are heading to Xbox soon, and we'll provide more updates as we go along. But thank you all so much for writing in and listening. If you've got this deep, Carrick, you've been our hashtag man the last number of episodes. What do you got?
Uh-oh.
Not this time?
Never put a Carrick on the spot. That's the saying. No, I'm just joking. I don't have one. Because I did see people saying DDE3 right before I jumped in here. There were a bunch of people using that hashtag. I don't know what...
Sleepy DD.
Dude, you absolutely could do Sleepy DD. That'd be awesome.
Yes.
Always got to have DD in there or Duke or something, because otherwise I think we're just wasting a hashtag. Yeah. So Sleepy DD.
Sleepy DD. I should have held that I was this tired until the end of the show to see if people could gauge how tired I was.
Well, I can tell. The only reason I know is your eyes.
Oh, yeah, they're hanging?
You're looking a little high as fuck. Because there's been a couple times where you're like, and I get that way too, depending on the time of day we do these, because I'll wake up at different times and I'm working out. Like this morning I was up at 3:30 a.m. and I did 2 workouts already today, so I'm pretty tired. And so there'll be times where, like, you get the lidded, and it's hard to know, is the person squinting at me? Like, are they listening, or are they just about ready to go comatose? And yeah, there's been a couple times where you're like, which is good. I mean, dude, people get tired. Like,
it's good. It means when I go to take my nap, I should just out like a light, I hope.
Take a nap? See. What are you, a 3-year-old?
Yeah,
dude, you're able to take those. We'll have to do...
Barely. I never do. But, like, when I'm running on 4 hours of sleep, I need to just function at this point.
Siesta time. Anyway, yeah, we can do Sleepy DD.
Excellent. Thank you all so much for tolerating my sleepiness. I'm sure it was very frustrating for you. I'm kidding. I'm sure you'll be fine. And with that, we appreciate you once more, and we'll talk with you very soon.
Peace out.
I'm not even going to try to speak anymore. Take good care of yourselves, and peace out.
Damn. Yeah, peace out.
The Finding Duke, an Xbox podcast, is a product and trademark of Last Stand Media and Collins Last Stand LLC, and is recorded from the good old USA. The show was conceived by Matthew Mr. Matty Plays Schroeder and me, Colin Moriarty, and is written and produced by Matthew Schroeder. Matty's co-host is Jeremy ACG Penter. The Finding Duke's executive producer is Dustin Furman, and the show is edited by associate producer Ben Smith. All of Last Stand's theme music is by Ramon Narvaez. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's shows, including Defining Duke, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer support level or higher on Patreon, and we're grateful for your kindness and generosity.